And welcome back to ScavTalk, everyone. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing some of the bans that BSG's done on the flea market, that being the M1A and SR25, and what it means for the future of the flea market, potentially.
And then we are also going to be discussing some complicated ballistic scenarios that at first glance seem relatively straightforward, but then actually give a good insight into why Tarkov's ballistic system can be quite confusing, and touching on something that I've been working on recently, which is about armor damage and a model for that, or more specifically, the hunt for a model for that. So that should be kind of interesting. But I think before we delve into anything in particular, we were just talking before the show. We do want to catch everybody up on kind of where we're at, because it's been a while. We've had a few guests on, and I guess we've just not really had as much time to, I guess, shoot the breeze in the way that we have done previously. And not everybody catches up with all the streams on my end, and Church has been doing kind of like offline and duos with his friends and with whoever outside of that. So, I mean, Church, yeah, feel free to start off. Like, where are you at? What level are you at? You did it hint to me before we started that you've been playing a lot, so I think you probably pulled away from me in quite a significant way. But yeah, feel free. Where are you at? Like, how are you in Tarkov Wipe? Because we are, just for reference, we are now. So 2 months was, when did it actually wipe again? Was it the 24th of June or so? 23rd of June? Was it 16th? I think it was the 23rd of June. I think. So I think we're into month 3 by about 2 weeks. I think roughly. We've had 2 full months, and then we're a couple of weeks into month 3.
Are we?
Broadly, I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Not too long ago, I heard 60 days, but
well, I guess that makes sense.
Here we go.
Because
73 days since last wipe.
73.
So about
okay, fine.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, about
2 months and 2 weeks, roughly.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're like about to get to the halfway point in 2 weeks' time. Cool. So,
what's about?
Where you at? What's happening? What level are you to start with?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 45 now. Dude, you know what's crazy is my buddy. I think I mentioned this before, but he's level 56, and he started like 2 weeks after the wipe.
Yeah.
He's a fucking animal, dude. He's a fucking animal. It's great. I just can't. It just blows my mind. But anyways, yeah, I've been playing a whole lot more because a bunch of my buddies have come back from last wipe. Like pretty much the whole gang now. Like the most recent joiner, if you will, or returner is like level 5 or something, and it's just great, dude. I love it. I gave him a slick. I gave him like a slick and a ULAC, and a buddy gave him an M4. Like, it's kind of funny. It's just like, oh, I can't drop him 206, but I can fucking drop him a slick. It's just weird.
You can drop him like a 750k kit, like no.
Yeah, it's just it's like, okay, I guess. I don't know. It's funny, dude. But anyways, yeah, he was playing the other day with another guy, and they got like super juiced. They killed a bunch of guys at Fortress, Stronghold, Alamo, whatever you want to call it, in customs. And then he was like, supposedly I was told he was going down the little footbridge it's like a tiny little like beam of like cinder blocks, I guess, that leads from second to first on the backside of Alamo or Fortress or whatever it's called. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And he got like the weird thing where like you're falling off of it, but you're not falling off it. And then he hit the bottom of it, and then he fell down again to the very bottom, like the basement, and he died instantly. But lost all. He had like 2 mutants that he got off players. Like, it was so bad, dude. It was so funny. But
was that just like an overweight thing, presumably?
I think yeah, that plus like low health. Like he's level 5. Okay. All of his stats are low, so like he's gonna take more fall damage than normal. But I think it was just because like you're like, to you it looks like you're on the object, but you're not. The game thinks you're falling, so whenever you like finally land, it's like the when you jump off 3-story dorms onto or you fall off on the like metal fence. If you don't like ensure you take that first initial fall damage when you walk back and forth, you're still falling in the game's logic, so you could potentially like black your legs or kill yourself. But anyways, yeah, so yeah, I'm 45 now. and pretty much just been, I got like 2 thick cases, a bunch of thick weapon cases. They're pretty much got infinite money. Been like running off meta kits, like really bad kits, like the SAG AK, dude. It's been rough, dude. That gun is like just not good. Like it's just there's so many problems with it. It's like it honestly might be one of the worst guns. Yeah, I think because I even tried the 9mm and the STM9. I feel like I did better with that than the SAG
Really?
AK.
Really?
Yeah, because
Okay.
like, well, here's the thing with and I don't want to like go too crazy, but the meta right now is the RD pretty well much.
Yeah.
Like you'll see mutants and you'll see I'm trying to think of the other I think that's kind of it, honestly. That's like when I die, it's BP. It's like almost always BP, 762 by 39 BP.
I still see quite a lot of UMPs with AP. I see quite a bit of that. And flechette. There's like those combinations of things. Less on away from factory, but like still enough, I think.
Yeah, but like I don't see those on the geared players. You know what I mean? Like I don't consider that geared.
Yeah.
That's all I mean. Like I'm thinking like what's the top of the top S tier, right? And it's pretty much
quite a lot by 855 A1 as well, actually. Okay. Between that and something else. But I guess it's not like super geared. Yeah, I guess everybody geared is just running the RD.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like that's like the only like it's the mutant or the RD, and if I don't, that's it. That's if I manage, if we kill them. Like we got into a big fight just yesterday on interchange in Mantis in the Citadel Mall, and there was like 3 guys. One was running an AK-74N with the waffle suppressor. Guess what? He was the first one to die, by the way. So, but the other 2 were both running RDs, and yeah, it's just like that's all I see, and I haven't really like ran it like in its full meta form. I don't know. I probably should, just because it's probably gonna get nerfed. But anyways, my point being is like there's just not a lot of like I'm like trying to like try. I've been using the G36, the couple of the other 5.56 guns like the Scar, the well, not the M4, but anyways, I just used the SR25 last night.
We're using the M4. No one likes the M4.
Yeah, it's okay, but anyways, long story short, I'm basically I'm playing because of friends right now. Otherwise, I don't know what else to do besides like factory queuing. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah. I'm not really questing. I got max traders. I got infinite money. Yeah.
What kind of quests do you have? Like, did you just stop? Like, have you done like peacekeeping mission, for example, some of like the slightly more easy but like laborious ones?
Yeah, I did. Well, I did peacekeeping, but that was before I was 42, right?
Oh, okay.
Like once I hit,
like this takes ages.
Yeah, I mean it really wasn't that bad. Like I think I got all the scavs done on interchange in one raid. Yeah, there's just a lot of scavs. Like if you go at the right time, like nighttime, you can get a lot of them. But it kind of
just it's only 12. Like it sounds like quite a lot, but I mean, most of the time, if you're looking for it and you're trying and you play a full raid, you can normally get like 6 at least. On I mean, basically every map.
There's at least 6 in Ollie and in the underground. Assuming there's nothing weird with the spawn.
Yeah.
But
so like what kind of like the quest?
I have long line.
Have you done though? So you haven't done long line because that's
no, but I'm gonna get it because our group likes interchange.
Yeah, you play interchange a lot. Yeah.
So, and like have
you done Insomnia?
No, I haven't done.
Okay. So that's kind of where you're at, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't done Insomnia. I haven't done what's the sniper level 8 now? Psycho Sniper. I haven't done that because I leveled up my fucking Mosin reload skills to level 7. I did all my just reloadings, bro. But yeah. Yeah.
Have you done Tarkov Shooter 8?
No.
Have you done Shooter 1 in Heaven? I guess not.
No. I'm not doing
okay,
Shooter
fine.
4. Because
there's all those pain ones, right?
Yeah, and it's like what's like I don't care about Kappa, so I don't care about this quest. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then what does quest actually give me? Stuff I don't really care about. Like I can buy a weapons. I mean, I can buy a magazine case from Mechanic.
Yeah, like who cares? Okay. Like it's only it's Kappa questing and just like for doing it. So.
Yeah, it's like okay, I can save a little bit of rubles by buying it from Mechanic, but I already have infinite rubles, so it doesn't really matter. You know, it's like I could go for Kappa because I can put more things in my butt, whether it's like injector cases or key tool and Doc's case, whatever, or loot. But I already have like infinite. Like it would be nice, but yeah, I can't be bothered with. It's just not fun for me to like do that stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So yeah, I guess like the flip side of that. So I have been playing steadily, I guess, since I took like a bunch of time off in August, but steadily pushing through. I managed to finally hit 42. Probably 3 streams ago. It was like at the beginning of this week, basically, when we got to 42 finally. And it wasn't actually, it was nowhere near as bad as it felt like it was before. I don't know, maybe it's because some of the quests feel easier in some ways. I went through and did like, I actually finally got around to the Lighthouse ones because I do just leave Lighthouse normally because it's just a pain and I'm not super confident on that map. And dude, I went in and did it. And one of them was just like, it was like, mark this, do this, grab this thing, like do whatever with this thing. And then I was like, well, I've done all this stuff, so I may as well just go and get the docks from this random warehouse. So just completed like 4 quests in like one go. It was actually insane. So I just like racked up XP off Lighthouse, just completing all the quests. Like I hadn't even done some of the really basic ones, like go and look at the bodies in the villas and stuff. Like I really had not played that map at all this wipe. I really don't prioritize Lighthouse because it's not that important for progression until later. And like the FPS is just so bad for me.
Yeah, that's
so bad.
Where I'm at with it too.
Yeah. So it's just not that fun to play earlier on. I kind of don't mind later. I've actually been enjoying it a bit more as I've been playing it a little bit. But so that's kind of where I'm at. Like at 42, for doing a bunch of different things. I've kind of got a lot of those quests still to do that you're saying because I've like pushed through the quests specifically quite hard towards the end just because they're like the easiest way. There's some of the ones that are quite low XP that I didn't bother with. But like I've been kind of flipping between a lot of different things. Like a lot of the guns that I've been using are sort of content driven. So I was using the RD, made a video on that. I did actually do. We'll come on to this in a bit, but like about the SR and the M1A, I've not really been using those guns that much actually.
Yeah.
I've used the M1A a little bit, but I haven't used the SR25 at all since it got blocked off. And I've done a bit of all sorts of things, bit of Scar Rail, but like recently. And there's going to be some stuff that I'm going to make about it in the future. I've been running with, you were saying like off meta stuff. It's kind of interesting. And you've been using a certain segment of like off meta things. And I've been kind of using another segment of off meta things. And the one that I've been really enjoying actually recently is the Ash 12. It's just super fun.
Yeah, I've been wanting to try it.
It's just great. It's actually just great. And in the light actually of the, I mean, not that it makes it feel any different because like nobody noticed that the fragmentation bug was in existence, if you know what I mean. Like no one knew, everyone assumed that it was working. So the feel of the game hasn't changed. But just like in the theory, it kind of makes the Ash like even better because it just punches holes in people in one hit and they die. You don't even care about fragmentation. It doesn't matter. They just die, dude, because that thing does 102 damage or something ridiculous. And yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's not always the easiest to actually hit the shots. But when you do, people just fall over and it feels quite, I don't know, it feels quite rewarding because, yeah, sometimes you just lose because it's heavy and it's kind of hard to control. It's a bit of a beast. But when you actually do connect, you see the connection. It's brutal, dude.
Yeah.
it's brutal. And people just fold. And it's quite fun. I had a couple of like really fun raids with that. And then, yeah, recently I've been trying out the MCX again.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been playing like a bunch of reserve. And that's been pretty good. I mean, in CQB, that thing absolutely rips. It's kind of got some of the same issues as the M4 because of the initial recoil. But like that's been pretty good. But the reason why I've been doing a lot of these is just to clear up like random quests. So I'm still trying to complete the Ragman one where you have to get 2 more Ravens because I haven't seen any. I've done all of the other ones, just haven't seen any. So that's 0 out of 2. And I was trying to run customs like dorm safes, and that's what I was running the Ash for. I was trying to kill scouts down in the underground in reserve, and that's what I was using the MCX for. And then I finally went through because I don't really like sniping. I don't like Lighthouse's FPS, and sniping on Lighthouse just combines those 2 problems and makes it 10 times worse in both directions. So I did actually finally bust out some snipers and finish the one killing the rogue so I can buy the cheap voodoo. So I finally did that. And so I've actually been doing quite a bit of just like random sniping on Lighthouse across the last couple of raids as well. And it's been, it's been okay. It's been like relatively entertaining. Although honestly, I had like some of the, oh God, it wasn't even like the worst raids ever. Like I survived. Like it was, honestly, I've had better sessions where I've died in every single raid. Have you ever had this? Man, honestly, it was brutal.
I don't know.
I think I was quite tired. I didn't realize this though, because I just kind of assumed. And so we went to Lighthouse. We had to go and do it's some random one where mechanic has a key that you have to go into.
Oh yeah, broadcasting.
Yeah, into the westmost building. Is that building 1? I think the people say like 1, 2, 3, like round in the loops. Like west is 1 and the middle one is 2. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the westmost one, the one closest to the shore. And we were in that warehouse. Got to the warehouse because I knew where it was because I just looked at the map. Bought the key. Went to the warehouse. Was in there, and there was like I could hear a rogue, and I thought he was on the roof. It turned out he was actually inside the building with me. Started like firing shots at me like through metal plates and stuff. I was like, oh God. So I'm like chilling at the back thinking, how are we going to like not die to this guy? Because there's like loads of mesh and stuff. So I'm like, I can't really see that well anyway. He can see me with like perfect vision every time I peek through anything that is like remotely transparent in any fashion. Then there's like Scav like throwing grenades in from the other end of the building. I was just like, this is just becoming an absolute mess. I think the Scav kills the rogue, but didn't realize or something because the rogue like stopped shouting. So I like wander through. I'm like, what is that honestly going on? I'm like super paranoid, like so scared that I'm like, that's actually another rogue, and the one that I was thought was there originally is just like hiding, and I'm like trying to I'm like having to like sort of circle peek every corner to try and go around. And then I'm like, oh, okay, we now figured out that it is actually empty. That was the rogue, and he's dead. Meanwhile, though, I'm like, which room do I need to go in? I try to source the quest directions from chat live whilst not knowing where it's supposed to be. And people are like, right, left, no, where you were just looking, no, behind you, like the first floor on. It was honestly, it was an absolute travesty. I should have actually just found us somewhere safe, minimized the game, and just gone to look properly on the wiki, because like trying to source the directions from chat, it was absolute complete chaos and carnage, right? Anyway, we finally figure out where, like, I walk up the stairs. Everyone's like, no, it's the ground floor, even though some people were saying it was upstairs. And then when I finally get in the room, people are like, oh, dude, I was telling you the whole time. I was like, yeah, but you were like in amongst all these other chat messages. Like, how could I tell that you were the right one? Finally get in the room. I didn't bring the Wi-Fi camera. I was like, really? Like, are you serious? I hadn't actually read the thing on the wiki, and I didn't have the camera with me. So like, I was like, well, at least I know where it is. We go to leave. I like walk up the hill towards the railway station, instantly blow up on a mine because I forgot there's a minefield there. I run back down the hill behind the cover, get shot at by a random rogue. I don't even know where he was, probably on the road or something. It ricochets off my tac kek helmet. Seriously, dude, this raid was an absolute farce, right? I'm like hiding behind this random barricade in the middle of the road at the north side of building 1, just thinking like, what am I even doing here? Like, how did it end up like this? And the whole of chat at this point is just like, what is going on here? Like, what is happening? I'm like, fine, we just need to leave. I'm like, we're not going to do anything else here. We just need to go. I go all the way up to the northern extract. I don't have it.
Now I know what you're talking about. Yes, I know exactly the feeling you're talking about. Yep.
I was like, how could this honestly, how could this be any worse? Oh yeah, and then partway through I realized, because I swapped from, I was like, screw it, like I don't care anymore, because we were trying to do sniping and I kept getting killed by people up on the rocks. Like, don't care anymore, we're just taking the Scar L and we're gonna like just do some shooting in the warehouses, and we're gonna be up close, and so we're using like guns that I know. Like, I don't snipe that often. I'm a 3 times range assault rifle guy. That's the kind of my comfort zone, you know? Mm-hmm. So I was like, right, we're taking the Scar, we're going to take something sensible with it, the Scar L. And then, partway through the raid, I realized my secure container's got 240 stacks of M80 in it from the previous raid. So I've got like my 3 mags, and that is it. No reloading. I was like, honestly, this all happened in like one raid, basically. And it was really bad. And someone was just like, man, are you like super tired or something? And then I suddenly remembered that I had like a really rough night with the little one the previous night. But I kind of forgotten, because I'm just sort of used to it, you know. So I wasn't really thinking about it. And I was like, Yeah, man, I am actually really tired now that you say. And there's like some new people in chat who are just like, your videos are like so structured and so everything's like so rigid. And I've come to your stream and it is absolute chaos.
That's funny.
And some other guys were just like, I watch these streams quite often. It's not normally like this. I was like, I don't know what's happening today, but this is just like, it's just, yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Other than that, it's actually been going okay. But that honestly, that one raid, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, except for the fact that I managed to survive. We got on the train, of all things, because like everywhere else was super far away, and we were right near the end of the raid, and the train was there, and we ended up getting out with quite a decent amount of kit and stuff. Like it was actually all right, but like it was like the most successful raid that made me feel like absolute crap I've had in ages. It was so weird, man. It was so weird. But that's Lighthouse for you. That really is Lighthouse for you. Yeah, but it's been fun. It's been fun. I've been enjoying the eclectic use of different guns. But yeah, I mean, I guess like, well, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I mean, I don't think I'm going to go for Kappa. I don't think. I kind of wanted to at the start of the wipe, but with a lot of the like annoying quests, I don't think I'm going to. But like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still sort of slowly working towards it, just because I am anyway. And it kind of gives me some stuff to do, and I do sort of have a plan. Yeah, and I sort of do have a plan for a lot of them, and I kind of think like I don't know. I feel quite like, not that I'm like rushing. I don't feel like desperate to complete Kappa. I'm also not bothered if I don't get it, but I'm looking at a lot of the quests that normally I think like, oh, I really can't be bothered, and maybe that's because this is the first wipe where I've been doing the stuff full time, so I'm I've got more time, and I'm looking at Tarkov mostly, and I've got more time on stream, so I'm like not feeling like I really have to make the most out of like wring every last piece of footage gathering from my stream like I used to. So I'm sort of looking at quests like Shooterboard in Heaven and thinking, I mean, it could be kind of interesting to try and do it on customs and like figure out the spots, and like I'm open to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I'm not desperate either way.
I mean,
but I'm sort of open to it. And look, yeah.
I mean, you could also make a video out of it. It's
exactly
too, right?
Exactly. And I was kind of looking through the different quests, being like, I kind of have a plan for all of these. Like I kind of know how I'm going to do them all. So yeah, it's like even things like Insomnia. I'm just like, I could just play Reserve Underground, against people, and it'd be kind of fun. Like, and that'd be okay. I'd kind of quite enjoy it, actually. I think so. I'd say I'm feeling, it's fine. I'm in a good space. I'm in a good space. I think I'm in a good space. Was there anything else that you had from like your progression or anything? Or is that, are you good? You're good for the moment. Okay, cool. Fine. So yeah, I mean, I guess that does sort of move into what the first topic that I actually wanted to talk about, which was like the Flea bans, because part of the reason why I've ended up using the M1A partly on Lighthouse is because I have a bunch, because I like made a few for the video, and was like experimenting with stuff, which was kind of interesting. I mean, the SR, I think the SR is kind of dead, honestly, because like the context for this is that SR and the M1A got banned, right, from the Flea, and it was a bit ago, a couple of weeks ago, but I did a bit about that, and yeah,
what do you think is dead?
And I just think the SRs doesn't really work now, because the base gun is like 125k.
Yeah,
I think it's too much based on the alternatives that you can get.
Right,
you can't run it budget at all.
It's just not possible. What's the alternatives?
The alternatives. So previously it was still the RFB, right? So the alternative was the RFB, but that's if you want to run something budget. You can still sort of do it with the M1A, and with the Barter, it's actually pretty good.
Okay,
but it's still like it's slightly cheaper, but it's still relatively expensive. So those two going away is kind of like forced them up into the top end, but they're now up in the realm, at least the SR is. They're now up in the realm of, why would you ever buy the RSAS because the SR25 and the M1A exist? Well, now the SR25 and the M1A are up in that band as well. So it's like, well, if I want the best gun, then I may as well just buy the RSAS, kind of. Like you're sort of at that point now, I think. Because you still have to mod out the SR. Like one of the biggest problems that I find about the SR, and this wasn't specifically in the vid, because I was thinking about it a little bit more later, but it's the fact that because the gun costs 125,000 to buy it in the first place, if you want to use, like, you don't use it as stock, right? You don't use that thing as stock. You're going to change stuff.
Yeah.
Which means that you then have to basically sell what would have cost like 50k's worth of attachments, handguard, stock,
right,
all those other bits, pistol grip, back to the traders for 25k before you even begin. And this is part of the issue, because the M1A like has good barters, but even if you took the SAS barter out and a few of the other, if you actually took all the barters out, it wouldn't matter that much except for trader levels from what I investigated, because you can buy the base for 35,000 rubles.
You can buy the naked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can build a lot of those builds actually for very similar prices as the barters.
Right.
I mean, it's a more consistent price. Sometimes the barters are cheaper because you can buy like Wilston SIGs or USBs for like something low on the Flea. But because you can buy that base, firstly, you can change the M1A over if you get low Dura. You can't do that on the SR at all. You have to buy another 125,000 ruble gun, right, which is really annoying. And obviously you can sell back your existing SR like base, but I mean, it's not economic, right? Because you've still got all of those other crappy parts that you've bought from Peacekeeper for inflated prices that you don't need. You have to sell back for, half of what you bought them for implicitly because you had to pay for them in the first place with the gun. Do you know what I mean? Like the SR just doesn't really it's not sensible. It's just not sensible anymore, I don't think.
How much is the RSS?
RSS is more money. It is more money.
Okay.
But if you don't
you're
care
saying
about,
you might
I'm just saying like
well.
the gap in performance is the gap in price has closed so much that if you're just looking for the best of the best, you may as well just buy the RSAS.
I see
because,
what you're saying.
Yeah, because before it was like RFB SR RSAS, whereas now it's like RFB SR RSAS. They're like, it's so high up. The RSAS is in the same place, but it's got better stats and it's it's a better gun. I don't know. I think it's like, it's the time of the M1A, I think. But I've been using some just like fun builds as well, like M1A, like literally like buy the base, you buy the long barrel. Well, not even that actually. I did one which was even cheaper than that. I did like, you buy the base, you buy the short barrel, you put an Atlas on, and then you buy the Archangel stock and a rail, and that's it.
Yeah, that's the one I had used last swipe for like a budget build. It's a fun build, but
it's fun. It's usable. It's okay. Like, it's not the best.
Yeah.
I think you're probably better off with an RFB still.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah.
But it is fun. But the SR just like, there's no alternatives. There's just not really any alternatives.
Because like at that point, like you were thinking about budget, like price to performance. I feel like you get more of your mileage with the RD, right? Because it's basically the same price.
Yeah, exactly. If you go outside the caliber, then for sure. You've got other guns like that that just are better.
And the ammo, like M62 is really not that great. Like it's I mean, it's better than M80, by a few points, but it's really not like, dude, I was fighting the guy, I was using the SAG and he was using the SR25, I think. Yeah. And we were probably like, 10 meters apart. I was in Rasmussen and on interchange, and he was like behind the tent, the tarp area next to the hole in the floor. And we were both just like flashlights on, shooting at each other, hip firing, and just like missing, and I'm just like eventually like reload, go again, missing. Eventually I kill him, but my armor, my Gazelle got like, basically zeroed somehow, and I lived. And I mean, I was tanking so many shots, because I was just, and maybe I got some lucky rolls in there as well. But yeah, it's just like the ammo's not that great. And if you want to go M61, well, you'd have to pay like 20 USD a round if you've done the quest for it. Is it 20 USD or 22 USD? It's really expensive. I know that much.
A lot.
Or you craft it. You craft what? 80, I think you can get.
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's really it's under 100.
Yeah, so like you get
and it's what, 16 hours or something?
Yeah, you get one run, maybe two. So it's just like, it's kind of, I mean, I do feel like it has kind of killed it. But the same, because I really like that gun. But like, and then I don't know, it's just kind of weird. But anyways, I kind of agree. I do feel like you might as well just do RFB or just make the jump to BP, because you could, like, alternative, you could craft 120 rounds of BP overnight instead of M80, and I just feel like the our what's it called? What's the
RD?
RD, yeah. So many
I know
letters
so
and
many
numbers to
acronyms now.
remember. Yeah.
BP, RD,
Yeah.
SR, this, M1A. You know, it's just
But yeah, I just feel like that's just a better option.
yeah. I think so. Do you feel that people are, because I did some like testing recently when I was looking at the RD, and like I did like some just sort of throwaway RD versus mutant testing. And when I went back to the mutant, I was just like, the vertical feels really good on the mutant. It does. It's still really good, and it's still quite a lot better than the RD for like similar attachments. I didn't compare like min recoil versus min recoil, but it's just that those hidden stats on the mutant that just make it feel so crispy. But if you can control that on the RD, like the horizontal recoil is really good. So I do feel, I think we spoke about this before, but the RD is like kind of meta, because if you're like a top level player that can easily control the vertical, the horizontal is harder to adjust for. And so, but you do have a slightly lower fire rate. So I don't know, like it's just that horizontal recoil decrease, which on the mutant you can't get rid of really, is so much better on the RD. Right. And so it's like, well, if you go like, well, I can control both guns on vertical, fine. Then I'll take the one with the better horizontal, right? If you're struggling and you're moving up into budget, if you're moving up from budget guns into meta guns, I actually think I'd probably recommend the mutant to people who are not experienced with really high modded guns, because the mutant feels like a high modded gun. You know what I mean? Like it feels better. It's actually got similar horizontal recoil profile to other guns lower down the chain, but the vertical recoil just feels amazing. Whereas the RD is like, you kind of have to be used to control it. Like you have to be quite good at controlling it in a lot of firefight situations to actually make the most of it. Does that make sense? I feel like it's a higher skill player's gun in some ways.
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, I don't think it's. Have you used the fully modded RD? I mean, it still has
a. Did I use? I can't actually remember which version I ended up, because I've used I used a few different ones. I can't remember what recoil is the one that I use now. It was like a few guns ago, so I can't quite remember.
Okay.
I think I was using it with. I don't think it was fully modded, but it was like Zhukov and.
Oh, okay.
One of the like okay muzzles. Like I did use it a bit with just like the wooden pad and the butt pad and the wooden stock. Like I did a bit of that, but thing is, like fully modded is just the good suppressor, right? And then
the
Zhukov stock and, basically, and like a decent foregrip.
Yeah, I mean you can get away with the RK2 if you want. I think so. There's a couple of things, but to address your main thing, I would say, generally speaking, yes, the so someone made a video, Tayoff, shout out to Tayoff. I hope I'm saying his name right. He made a video about the G36, and his basic crux of his video is that this is a high skill player's gun, because even though the Scar has better a recoil pattern, if you will, the G36 has a higher fire rate, and if you can control the vertical side of it, it's a better gun, I guess. It was kind of his argument.
Right.
Because you get like an extra, I think it's 150 rate of fire, so its DPS is effectively higher. And that's kind of the thing with the RD that makes it really any gun in Tarkov, to be frank. If the profile is less than the standard, and for me the standard is 25, whatever that value means, but you know, the RD is 20, for example, then it's going to be favorable to players because, as you said, you can account for vertical recoil. You can account for a horizontal. Yes, the mutant shoots 50 RPM faster, and yes, it has like a less of a kick, but that really doesn't matter in the long run. As far as the kick goes, I mean, the rate of fire, you can make an argument for up close, sure, but it's just like, I don't know, because I've been using the G36, like I said, and I've been doing some really really scraping the bottom of the barrel, the like making the gun viable. It's like 30 round mag, the shortest barrel, shortest stock, the little fanfare muzzle brake. Like it's not good, but like if
like
you
no suppressors.
Yeah, but and like when it kicks, I can just barely see the red dot. Like when the first few bullets fly, I can just barely see the red dot at the top of the frame of the sight because it kicks so that much, right? So you have to like aggressively like yank down and then like slowly move back up, and you can get a decent spray. And what's even more interesting is what I'm noticing: the longer, like that first like 5 to 7 spray is like pretty vertical, and then afterwards it starts getting really crazy, like left and right. And I'm not too sure if that's just like a visual thing I'm seeing and it's like not the case, or if it is the case. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but anywho, my point is with the RD is like I think it is favorable for high skill players. I don't feel like it's that. Like I feel like high skill is like really really stretched it, because the thing is just like, yes, it has an initial kick, but it's, you know, it's Tarkov recoil we're talking. We're not talking about CS recoil. You know, that's a whole different thing.
High skill in this context is like people who can pull down mouse.
Yeah, because we're only talking like what, dude, a couple centimeters. Like it's not.
Oh, and don't forget to push it back up again a little bit.
Yeah, and that is a tricky,
trick.
You know, that's a tricky part, but. Plus with the RD, you can put drum mags in. Landmark was kind of saying this as well, as like being a solo player and having the ability to have drum mags is kind of a big deal, you know, especially for someone like him. So, yeah, I think it's, yeah, because like that's the problem I was having with the SAG AK, was that since it's not full auto, you basically have to go for one shots, like headshots, because you can't get the rate of fire high, like you're capped at the single rate of fire. And because the profile is still the same as all the other guns that aren't meta, like aren't the RD, you still get the side to side kicking. So like you're basically using an AK-74N that's in single fire. Like, sure, it has really good ergo. Sure, it has like 4 points less vertical, but it doesn't matter because it's kicking side to side. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really. There's really nothing. There's really no redeeming quality about it. Plus, you gotta factor in the ammo. Like, I was doing some testing with Agonic versus BS and whatnot, and it's like past 100 meters. Maybe even like past 80 or 60. I didn't really test it that much, but definitely past 100 meters. If you shoot him in the head, helmet, no helmet, whatever, with Agonics, they have 1 HP left. So you're screwed, okay? It does like 37 flesh damage. So like if you hit him in, like it's just like not great, man. It's just not great. Like, oh, just, you know.
This is the problem with it, right? That is the problem with the SAG. It's like, yeah, it's got really good ergo, so that you can raise your gun first, have the initiative, and then fail to kill your opponent before they kill you with full auto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, this is one of the arguments that I had about it. It's partly the ammo and partly the gun itself. It's like the gun is like the perfect DMR with bullets that are the absolute worst rounds to run in DMR of all time. So it's like the two things like clash. Like the further away they get, the better the SAG actually is, kind of like in sort of principle. And then the worse the actual effectiveness is. So it's like the two things. It's like as it's getting good, something else makes it bad. You know, so it's like at close range, it's like not good because of the lack of full auto. Then at medium distance, like it's all right. And then at longer ranges, it sucks again. So it's like it's really niche. It's like it's not even like a DMR. It's just like far assault rifle ranges, sort of. I don't know. It just doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, you can, like, okay, you could do BT, but then like you can't really deal with class. Like you can like gamble against class 4, you know. So it's like if
you're gonna bounce off a ULAG half the time, you know. It's like,
and then it's like, okay, well then you go to BS, but you can't get BS. You can't craft it. You can't buy it. You can barter for it, but you're talking like over 1,000 rubles per round. And again, it only has 40 flesh. It's not like Yeah, and like you can get unlucky on some of the. You can actually like instead of requiring 3 hits to kill in the chest at point blank, the Gazelle can the armor can do its job and it will be 4 hits to kill. So we're talking, what is it, 650 RPM? Well, I guess technically 500, whatever the single fire rate of fire is. It's just like here's if the recoil was like the STM, like just straight vertical and like, you know, very tiny, then it would be better, more attractive. Or if the ammo was like higher damage, higher damage, really. It's the damage is kind of the main issue. Then it would be more attractive. But as it stands right now, it's like the worst of both worlds. Oh, just use it for sniping. Oh wait, you can't kill them unless you have BS rounds, and even then the distance is only so far, and you know, how do you get the BS rounds? It's nearly impossible. Oh, just, you know, minimum recoil and just, you know, tap like crazy. B, Will, or Z. Oh, it takes 5 million bullets to kill them. I guess I'll just at a rate of fire of 400. Okay, I guess I'll just go back to my RD and cry. But yeah,
I guess I'll just die.
Yeah,
you know, it's like
it's rough. It's a rough gun. But I will say in general, the 545s, they are pretty cheap to like get their stats up. You know what I mean? And you can, you know, get relatively cheap ammo, like BT's kind of 400 around, like it's okay. But the guns are really cheap. Like I actually got inspired by one of your the Krebs, or no, is it the Krebs? Whatever the
yeah.
It's like, dude, it's
that one.
Yeah, I built like a really like a good AK for like 80K, or maybe it was like 90K, and I mean it's like, you know, it sucks, but you know, if you shoot them in the head of BT and they're not wearing a class 4, you know, it's just like works. But
yeah, this is like the one funny thing about the AK platform. Like the one place where I will actually go and use it, and this is why the 101 is kind of cool in some ways, because you get you get it both, right? You get to use 5.56, but then you can also get them to use like the Krebs in it, which is kind of neat. But the one like really cool thing about the AKs is you have that RRD muzzle brake. It's like actually good. It's like 19% recoil reduction or something.
Yeah.
You can use they're not meta, but you can use the AKs like close to meta in general, and go and not have a suppressor and have like crazy ergo if you want to just like run around in CQB.
Right.
Like running around like close up with BS, that actually kills people. It really does. Like they work quite well. You know, they've got the low rate of fire as like a lot of the other guns, but BS, like it's weird, right? Because like 545, if you looked at it in a vacuum and you said, and you just, well, it's the damage that's the problem mainly. But 545 actually has really good like penetration scaling, actually.
Yeah.
You know, you've got BT at 40, completely deals with class 4 totally. Like, you know, no big deal. Actually, yeah, because BT's really high now, actually. We were just thinking a second ago, and I was still thinking BT 37, but that got boosted, right? Because PP is at 36. BP is 37 and BT is 40. So you actually will pen more cleanly with BT. It depends over the range though. If you're at like 50 meters,
okay, that's probably what happened then. Yeah, okay.
That's because it's quite like 40 is very sensitive. You only need to lose a few points to not pen anymore.
That's true.
But anyway, but close up, like 40 deals with class 4 no problem. 50 what is BS? Is BS 50? I forget.
51. I'm looking at
51. So that deals with class 5 no problem. Like that's a really high percent chance to go through class 5. And then in Golnik, deals with class 6. Yeah, 62. That like again, that just like creams straight through class 6. Like no problem. So the penetration scaling of 545 is actually really good. The problem is the damage trade-off that you have to take for it, which really sucks.
The rate of fire on the guns is 6.
Plus the rate of fire on the gun,
which is
So it's kind of air.
Yeah.
And when you've got the bullets out of 5.56 weapons working so much better, and the fact that and this is why it works in this niche place, right, with the RRD working so well, but then basically all the other suppressors just kind of sucking because they're not very good. Like the 5.55 suppressors, except for the waffle, it's like they're all rubbish, and the waffle is amazing and really expensive.
Yeah, it's
really like there's nothing in between. It's so weird. But the 101 can use. This is why the 101 is so good, because you can use the adapter, the CNC Warrior, and then you can use all of the 5.56 suppressors as well, which are really good. So it means it scales properly, and you can use a proper suppressor, and you can do the Krebs build, and you can put Zhukov on it or whatever. It's like it's just the 101 is just such a good gun. But there are like as you were just saying, if you want to do just like a CQB shock and awe, like bust through people's class 5s, like running BS full auto in one of those guns, it will work. It will work. I've been killed more by BS on factory, I think, than anywhere else.
Yeah,
I don't know why. People tend to run those kind of guns. It's because it's cheap. It's because they're cheap.
But where do you get the BS? Because I run out of BS, and
yeah, you run out really quickly. You have to top bottom with BT. That's the thing. You have to do 10, 10, and 20 or something.
Yeah.
And hope you kill him in the first 10 rounds.
Because that's like the thing is like, it's also like working against that caliber is like arguably the best ammo. I mean, I guess the 2 best ammos are really hard to get a hold of, where 7.62 BP is like relatively, it's much easier to get a hold of than BS, we'll say. So
yeah, it's true. It's true. And that's the thing. It's just like, well, you may as well use it. But I mean, the recoil is a lot lower on those guns. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think people give 545 a bad rap. It's just because outside of CQB it doesn't really work. And then you're like, well, now we're in that scenario. Now you may as well run a P90, or you may as well run an MP7, or you may as well go with like 45 AP out of a UMP, or even a Vector if you're talking about like just CQB now. Because if you're saying, well, all these guns suck over long range because the damage is awful, okay, fine, we'll just use another gun. Like just don't use. If it's no longer like it's no longer it's no longer an assault rifle in the sense of it works at every range, but it's kind of a not the best of every world, but it works in every scenario. Whereas I feel like something like the Scar does work in every scenario, kind of, or like MDR, they all kind of work in every scenario. The M4 like sort of less so, but you could still argue that it does. It's got high rate of fire for CQB. It's still one taps long range, no problem, and the damage is actually okay. Like the M4 still like it's usable.
Yeah.
Whereas these guns, it's like they're really good close up, but the damage is low and it falls off so quickly that at longer range, medium, longer ranges, you just don't want to use it anymore. So it ends up having more of like a SMG mentality to it, where there's just better SMGs out there that you can just use straight up, or use something like compare it to the MCX. Like the MCX is insane. As I said, I've been using that recently, and the ammo is annoying, but you can buy it if you buy it in enough cycles. You have enough rounds of the AP, 51 damage and 48 pen. It's actually not that dissimilar to BP. BP is 58 damage and 47 pen, so it has 1 more pen and it has 7 less damage. Like the MCX absolutely rips people at close range. It's insane, actually. It is pretty insane.
I haven't used that one as much. I need to.
I've been using it a bit. I've not used it a lot yet, but it's good. It is kind of hard to kill people at range with that gun too, because the rounds are only 500 meters per second.
Yeah.
So it's not great, but it's not awful. But you probably, I don't know whether you're still better off with BP. I'm not sure on the lower rate of fire because the damage is still there. It's hard to know. It's just because like the RD just works so well, right? It works so well. But yeah, so I mean, so with these guns banned off the Flea, like it's sort of an interesting situation now where
you use this. Sorry, because the new guys are playing now, right? And it's basically 545 is their only option, or the with FMJ. And even though they have Flea, but like they're not like they're just. It's just a tall ask for them to spend over 1,000 rubles for M80. It's like they can get an RFB off the Flea, but they can't get M80 because they don't have Peacekeeper. Like one of them is like 25 and still stuck behind flash drives. Believe it or not.
Yeah, it was 25 when I got mine done.
Yeah. So he basically is stuck to UMP FMJ or RPK with BP or BT, whatever he can get a hold of there. And it's like, because you can't buy BT off the Fleet now, so you have to do the quest to get it. Sorry,
can you still do those trades? You can still do like is it the which I can't remember which barter it is for BT. So you can still like access it. I think is it Prepar 2 still?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna check because I can't remember because you can buy you can buy PP. Right? I use PP for the whole, but this is the thing. I use PP for the whole first section of the wipe. Yeah, they're Prepar 2. They're both Prepar 2. Two cans of beef stew, 1 dry fuel.
Oh, one. What's that like? You probably did a 2 beef stew, which is probably like 20k for 30. That's not too bad. So
what do you get? You get like 666.
Yeah,
per round.
PP's pretty good. Like I would do that, but that's basically his options, right? I mean, he would unless we give him gear, but which we have, but it's just kind of like I don't know. It's weird. Like, what else is there? You know?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you get locked behind Peacekeeper, you're stuck because you can't do 5601. Or I mean, you can craft it in the workbench, right? But the problem is the issue with the crafts, because people say to me sometimes, like, oh, well, the crafts exist, so that's fine. But I think the problem with the crafts is even if, and let's just say, even if it's like profitable, quote unquote, to do the craft,
Okay.
right? And you don't spend like 2,000 rubles per round doing it. Say it costs the same as or actually cheaper than the trader, right? Let's say it's cheaper than the trader by like 50% even. Half of the problem there is that it just takes so goddamn long.
It takes long. It takes a long time.
You just don't have enough. You just don't get enough bullets.
Yeah.
Like it's not even a question of money at some point. It's like what we were saying with M61. Like you just don't get enough rounds.
And this is the thing, is that the standard is I can buy X amount every reset from the trader. That's kind of like this. The standard is I can run 5.5681 all day long because I buy it every reset, and other players also are doing the same thing. So when you kill them, you take it from them. You know, that's the standard. So when you jump from crafting in and hideout, you get 200 rounds every day, basically. I mean, technically 12 hours, but every day you might as well say that's like one run. You know, one, 2 runs maybe.
Yeah.
And you think about it again, you're using 5.681 when they're probably using 5.581, and they probably have access to better gear and stuff. So who's gonna win the firefight? You know, do you get Tarkov or does he get Tarkov? Which one's more likely? You know,
yeah,
it's tough.
It's a tough one. It is a really tough one, and this is again like it comes back to what I was thinking about recently. I've been thinking a lot about like the game and how it functions and the traders and stuff. And I'm not fully, I don't know, I haven't quite got in my head like what I want to say and like how I think the game should be, because I don't really know. But I feel like I need to do some more thinking about it, because you look at those things in the workbench and you like I just see that and think this makes total sense if the traders don't exist. You know, that's the problem that I have. Like, and I keep running into these problems over and over again where I'm like, the game doesn't make sense unless it's hardcore. Like, unless you're playing hardcore, like the workbench, like times just don't make sense. Because as you're saying, right, you're going from being able to buy something for however many, like every 3 hours or every 1 hour or whatever on the trader resets. By the way, this is a complete random aside that I've just reminded myself about. Did you know that the traders reset like different lengths?
Yeah, I figured that.
Were you aware of this? Was everybody else aware of this except for me?
I figured it out recently, because Jaeger's like every hour and like 20 minutes or something.
Every hour.
Mechanic and Ragnar are like every 3 hours and 30 minutes or something. And
so I thought,
yeah, go ahead.
I thought they were all like 3 hours 20 or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought, right?
Yeah. Apparently, this is not true.
Yeah.
Apparently, this isn't true. I learned this like yesterday.
Which is like, why? I don't, because the Jaeger ones, it's actually kind of nice he resets so early, because so many freaking people are doing the dog tags bars with the 3 freaking flash drives, because it makes you money, right? Mm-hmm. But since he resets every hour, you know, it's like, okay, I can check after this trade. But like I was trying to get Black Card because I had all the stuff. I bought a junk box for it, just so I could like have space in my stash. And you literally have to do the thing where you go on the flea market, you set out your filters to where it only shows the black keycard barter, and you hit escape and click on flea market back and forth when the reset's about to happen. And as soon as it happens on the flea, then you click buy and hope you're the first one. I got it doing that method. I tried the other method, which is looking at the trader reset timer. I never got it, but when I did it like that, I got it. But it's every 3 hours. It's like every 3 hours, 30 minutes. So I have to like set an alarm, because you have to be there at the very millisecond. Anyways, that's a whole nother thing. But what were we talking about before trader resets?
Yeah, I was just like, dude, my mind was blown, because I was like, how come? Because basically, I bought one of those. I bought one of the dog tags, and I was just like, how come he still has some left at like 1 hour 10 or something? And someone was like, because he just reset, duh. And I was like, what do you mean he just reset? But surely there's been 2 hours. And they were like, no, he resets every hour. I was like, you what? Are you serious? Like, I've just never really paid attention. I just kind of look at it and go, oh, if it's close, then like maybe I'll wait. Like, what? It's just fun. I just like never really paid attention to it particularly. It's quite funny. But But what was it we were talking about? I like kind of derailed us. Oh yeah, because we were talking about like the traders, and I just keep running into these scenarios where I think like the game only, like so many things in the game only make sense. Like if you're playing 1.0 EFT,
right,
and you don't even have a stash, or like somebody said to me, oh, I should go and watch this latest clean video. I think it was from like 2 weeks ago about the future of Tarkov, and he was talking about the beginning of the game where you're going to like be in streets with nothing, no stash or anything. Like you don't even have a stash, is what he was saying, and you're going to have to like go and find your stash because the stash is like in customs and woods and those places underground, something along those lines. And I was like, okay, well, when you get there and like you don't have any traders unlocked, maybe it takes longer to get the traders. Like these crafts now they start to make sense in that context, but like right now they don't make any sense because, as you said, every reset cycle you could just go and buy a load of ammo, and you're basically just like comparing the mountains of ammo that you can buy across the different calibers, and you go, well, this one I can only do, that's why AP 6.3 just didn't make any sense at all. That's why, because it's like some stupidly long craft that's ridiculous. The ammo was also not very good, and because you couldn't buy it on the traders, it just like seriously limits the amount that you can do. So it's like, well, looping right back to what I was saying at the start, was like people say, oh well, you can get 56A1 from Workbench 2, that's fine. I'm like, it's kind of fine, but you just don't get enough rounds to run it routinely, which maybe you shouldn't be able to run it routinely. That's fine, but the expectation is in the base game that it is right now is that you do need to be able to run it routinely. Yeah, exactly. You should, because you can with other weapons, with other calibers, exactly. Or you just complete the quest and then now you can.
Yeah,
it's like so another mentality is like, well, don't bother running it until you can complete the quest and buy endless amounts, because like, why would you? It's just dumb. Like, there's alternatives. If there wasn't an alternative, it would make sense. You go like, well, I'm not going to get 55A1 for like 10 years of grinding Tarkov to finally get to level whatever. So I'll slowly craft it, and then I'll have to like stack it with M855 underneath it and all this kind of stuff. But like right now, it just doesn't justify that, you see. And this is the thing. I just keep running into these situations where I just think like, ugh, I wonder what's good. I don't know. Combined with the fact that then like I've got a ton of comments on my YouTube of just being like, I'm waiting for the day when everything's banned off the Flea except like random barter junk. And like I'm just thinking to myself like, I can maybe
like it's kind of headed in that direction.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was kind of like surprised I mean, like given their history, it makes sense that they banned the SR25 and M1A, right? Because like that's what I did this swipe, is I got the Flea unlocked, I bought an SR25, I slapped some mods that I found in Ray, like a CRT stock, and I probably bought either the Thunder Beast off the Flea or the Meta Suppressor and a Voodoo. I spent a bunch of money on it because it's probably because I had M80 as well, and it's just like, this is probably the most S tier gun at what you can get off the flea market at level 15. I mean, it is expensive, but it's not really a big deal because just do a couple scav raids and I'm good to go. I mean,
exactly. And early as well, they're pretty cheap, right? Like early on in wipe, I know that they're gone now, but they were like 50k early.
Yeah.
And like when you're in the bulk of running them, they're like 60. I know they get expensive later, right? Like last wipe, I think they got up to like 80, 90, 100k sometimes in like peak hours because everybody was using them. But like, in the mid game, they're like 60k. It's like no big deal. And that makes them feasible, right? That's kind of the right price for the base weapon, because you're going to spend another 100,000 rubles on all the shenanigans you're going to put on it. Makes it 160k. It's not that cheap really. But it's like, as you say, you can get 160k like no big deal really. And it's very, very usable. Whereas like, now it's like 125 plus you need to spend still 100k on it still to make it like mid tier even. It's like 225. Like I managed to squeak a build in under 200,000 with the SR, but it's like definitely not the best build. It's good for 200k. You just think like, why? So it's just funny. And like, for me, it almost seems to be exactly the exercise that you went through in your own head, is like, now what's the next least, what's the next one, right? Well, this is the freaking thing, dude. It's like, it's a tier of stuff. So it's like, okay, what's next? Oh, it's the SR and the M1A. Okay, well, these are really good. Okay, well, now they're banned. Okay, well, what's next down on the list? Like, what's next? Like, eventually, sure, you have to just ban everything eventually if you take that mentality.
Which to me makes it more interesting, because you I don't know. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but like,
I know.
I always come back to the old Rust example, and it's like, Yes. Well, see, that game's changed a lot recently, so it's not as true because now it used to be AK was the S tier gun because it was good at every range. And it was like specifically really good at long range because you could, if you just memorize the pattern, you could just beam people from 100+ meters away with just a red dot. Like, it was insane.
But you mean program it into my weight now?
Yeah. Yeah. No, Jesse, that was definitely a thing. People definitely did that. But now they got it broken into tiers more, which is a lot more interesting. They reworked it. But anyways, the point is like, you could find an AK, you could get an AK off a player, you could craft an AK, but to craft it, you had to do all this prerequisite work, find an AK, or find someone that had the blueprint that was willing to trade it to you, which meant you have to like, someone's willing to give up the S tier blueprint. That's like that means you permanently now can make AKs. You have to like, you have to go find the parts to make the AK. You can't just like, I mean, you could buy them, but there's a lot of like steps you have to go through. Whereas like Tarkov, it's like, yeah, I could find an SR-25, but I also could just like buy it off the Flea from someone else that found it, and the millions of people that are playing, yeah, millions is an exaggeration, but whereas Rust, everyone's in their own little world together. Like, you have 100 people in this world that are trading and playing together. You have 100 people in this world that are trading and playing together. Tarkov's economy is just one big giant. Everyone's in the same flea market world, So it's like, and then you think about the traders, it's like, you can just, once you do enough prerequisite work, you can just get it from them every so often, and you don't have to actually go to them. You just click buttons in the menu. It's just kind of, it's like, it's a lot easier, and it's like, basically how I see it is like, we're playing create a kit. At a certain point, you, like, for me as an instance, at a certain point, I've done all the quests, like, and all the hideout upgrades and everything, where you just have all the options, right?
Yeah.
And to stay competitive, you just pick the best option every time, and it's essentially create a kit. Well, when they do these like bans and everything, your create a kit gets less and less. You have less and less options, basically, and you have like less and less viable options because you could buy. Yes, M80 may be the best option, but it's 1,000+ rubles off the flea market in small quantities. So it's like, is it really the best option? It makes a much harder choice. But anyways, I digress. It is gonna. What's the next one? I don't know. That, guess we'll find out next wipe. What's the next best thing you can get at level 15? We'll see.
Exactly. Well, like what's really interesting about like the flea market in general is the way that, and I think this is maybe an underestimated, unintended consequence of doing that, is that what you effectively do, I know some people just sell stuff to the traders, sure, and there's some things that now you're not allowed to sell, but back in the day when you can just sell anything, and the reason why we ended up in the situation that we're in is because what you effectively do is you share everybody's loot pool with everybody else.
Yeah.
Because if you're just playing on your own, right? This is the thing, right? And it's actually it's like a really big difference. If you're playing by yourself and you pick up an SR-25 and there was no Flea, you may not want to use that gun. Like, you might just not want to, right? And you've only got so much stash space.
Right.
So you just sell it to the trader. You're like, okay, well, I'm not going to use this thing. I don't have space for it. I'm just going to say it. Or you just keep it in your stash, like one or the other. You just keep it there. You like take all the stuff off it and you just leave it in your stash. Like, fine, maybe I'll use it eventually. Maybe I'll use it one day. As soon as you open up that flea market, all of those people finding those things that they don't want end up in this huge pool. And there's a small number of people who actually want to use that and it's partly the issue with Tarkov's loot pool, right? There's like, well, not loot pool, but just like the number of items. There's so many items. And so like people tend to use the same things. And there are more people finding stuff than people who want to use them. And given the option to sell it to other people, those people will then go and sell them.
Exactly.
So for every 5 people finding SRs, only one person actually wants to use them. So they end up going lower than, unless it's an item in like super high demand, right? And you see the demand going up later on in the wipe. But it's a case in point that even late wipe, when the SR is deemed one of the best weapons, and was on the Flea, it was still cheaper than the trader price. Like right up until the final days of the wipe, right?
Right.
Which is kind of nuts. And Diablo 3 had the same problem when I played that. And I don't normally talk about Diablo 3, but it's an interesting case study because it had an auction house which was open up to everybody. And they actually even ended up making a real money auction house as well as kind of an experiment. And they ended up closing it all. And I quite enjoyed my experience in the Diablo 3 auction house, exactly in the same way as I enjoyed my experience in the Tarkov flea market. Because I may have mentioned this once before on the podcast, but it's not something I bring up that often. I used to do, I specialized in budget legendary items. That's where my specialism lie. Because in Diablo, it's much more interesting because items are not fungible in Diablo because they've got a random range of stats. So you may have like 3 statistics and they roll randomly within these things. And people either don't know what the different things are worth that they're picking up, are the wrong class, so they just don't need the item at all, or they can't be bothered, so they just put it up on the thing and sell it to get some coins, whatever. I can't even remember what the currency was. Some kind of gold coins of some sort, some fantasy coin. I think it might have just been gold. I think, yeah, Diablo's just gold.
Yeah.
I think it's just gold. So I used to go on there, and again, it was like Tarkov pre-Final Raid. You could go on there, you'd see people posting up, and you'd be refreshing while you're like doing whatever, like watching shows or like, you know, whatever. And you could just refresh on there. You'd pick up people off the top. You know, you'd look at it, take a glance of it, and after you'd done it for a bit, like there was about sort of 10 different items that I used to look at a lot, and you just like flick through, you know, have a look at these and go, that's a bargain, and you'd relist them where they're supposed to be. Because you go, okay, well, this is like 60% up on this one, like this one's a bit crappy, but this is like 9 out of 10 on this particular thing. So it's not like top tier, but I'll put it here. And somebody who is actually that class will then come along and be like, okay, well, I want to go like so high up and I'd like this stat more than anything else. Yeah, okay, fine, I'll buy it. And you put in a little buffer, but you'd end up making like a ton of money. But it's so problematic for a game like Diablo, because like if you go back to like a Diablo 2, you're playing on your own and there's no marketplace. You pick up all this junk and you just trade a vendor most of it. And then every now and then you pick up something that's actually really good, that's got a good role for yourself. But to actually grind that stuff for your own character would take an eternity. Honestly, I don't even know. I actually don't even think it would be possible to grind all that stuff yourself, like on your own, without doing trading. Because people used to do, for the top tier stuff in D2, people used to go into trading lobbies and trade with each other. Like, but kind of the way that it used to happen before the Flea. For high tier, like runes and things, so you could like complete rune words and stuff. Like that's the way that it used to work in D2. And so in D3, that's kind of all cut out because you've got these millions of people finding items that they don't need or don't want or whatever. Right. And it's just like, normally those things would just get disappeared off because people don't need them. So it just like, it increases the supply like of items by an insane quantity. Like it's humongous. Like it's like, it increases it by, and I don't even know how you'd really like quantify this per se, but it increases the supply by the total amount of items in the loot pool divided by the total amount of items that you actually want to use for your own character. Something along those lines, right? Because each person's got like a set of items that they want to use, but now you can access like the entirety of everything. Normally, like most of the items, like 95% of the items that you find you don't need, so you sell them all. But if now they're going to other players that, you know, it's in their little circle that they want. Right. You get all the items that all the other people don't want that are in your circle. You now have access to, and they're all vying for each other on a marketplace too. So it's actually insane how much that changes it. And so that's the reason why we've kind of ended up here. I was thinking about this the other day. I was just like mulling it over and like,
how did we get here?
Wondering about it. Yeah, how did we get here? And this is how we got here. And I think for the time being, it's like an okay halfway house if you assume that the trader system is staying the way it is, which I think for the time being, I think that's a good assumption. Whether you like it or not, it is the way it is. I don't think we'll see the trader system change until 1.0 personally. Maybe we'll have a big patch that'll like shake up everything, but I don't think until we have storyline quests, starting in streets, moving through the game, completing the single player, getting into, you know, the free roam Tarkov or whatever the mode that we know and love now will look like post 1.0. Don't know what that's going to look like. But until we do, I still think the traders are going to be the same. So, you know, as a halfway house, I still think the flea bans probably do make sense. Like it's what made 12.12 good and the early game good and the progression, well, yeah, the progression, I think it's good. I still think it's good. It's okay. It's fine. It's not the worst thing ever. It's definitely better than it used to be, in my opinion. but there are problems, right? There are issues, and the traders suck. And I need to do a lot more thinking about like the way that I would want it to be. But I don't know. I think in the context of like flea bans in particular, I think it's sort of okay to stop people accessing that stuff at level 15, because that's really the threshold we're talking about. Because we're saying like, here's the thresholds you should access all this stuff. Here's the threshold that you can access everything that's not flea banned. It's level 15.
Right.
And that's the problem. It's the difference between the flea level and the levels that you're supposed to unlock the stuff at in the rest of the structure of the game. That's why it's problematic. And flea ban just basically says we've moved the level from level 15 to whatever it's supposed to be.
Right.
Kind of.
But it's just like, but this is the part that's like conflicting for me, is because, you know, just an example, let's just go back to when the flea first came out, you know. Well, let's go back to where there was no flea bans. Okay, I don't want to go back that far. You know, as you said, everyone's circle is small, but everyone's loot pools is being shared. So essentially, there are way more sellers than buyers for items. So you can basically create a kit for whatever you want. And that's where the game feels less like a survival game for me and more like a round-based shooter game, because if that's the case, you know, I can create whatever class I want. Again, there's more buyers than there are... Wait. There's more sellers than there are buyers for items. Because, like, I'm the type of person, Giga, this swipe especially, I just loot everything and anything, and I sell it. And, like, crickets. Yes, they only sell for, like, 7,000 rubles, but they sell. People buy them. I don't know what for. They're kind of trash. Like, hideout. I don't know. I don't know why people, because there's really, I looked at it, there was like, there's no good barter. There's like one craft, and the rest of them are like utility tools. So I guess people need them for utility tools. Maybe they need them for hideout upgrades. I don't know who's buying them, whatever. But literally, you know, pretty much everything sells at some point, you know, at the right price, whatever. And then you liquidate all the loot that you're not going to use into loot that other people are not going to use that you want to use. And it's like I'm not really playing a survival game, because I just like load in, everything's fully prepared. I got, you know, all my stems in my thing. I got all the mods I want, all the armor, you know, I have the choice. I have food. I can come in the raid pre-food that I bought the flea. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? It just doesn't feel like I'm really playing a survival game. It feels like I'm more playing this arena shooter game where it's like, I've said a million times, it's just like call to fix your steps. You know, it's just like create a class, but rubles involved. But that's why I feel like if they like, you know, dialed that back more, you know, I'd feel more like I'm playing a survival game where I have to like do survival stuff, like scavenge for stuff. I don't know, you know. Struggle,
exactly.
You know, like
exactly.
I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, it reminds me, because like I keep getting interested in these hardcore runs, and like I've never actually done one because I'm always just too busy doing like content and other stuff, and like making sensible progress in the game. And I got drawn in again into another one of these things, which is like Dan Exert's one, which is just like ridiculous stuff. And he put out a post. I'm actually probably just going to I'll put his tweet link in the chat so people can see it. But he basically said, Dan Exert's Naked and Afraid rule set.
Oh my god.
Objective: kill all the bosses, including the goons. Rules: no stash. Allow 1 square for cash. No container. No buying or bartering at the traders. No scav, and you can only run what's on your PMC. Death back to melee. You can use the therapist heal service after death only, using money from fence sales, or get the free heals up to level 5. And there was like something about your community that can give you like 1 item from a scav run or something. But it's quite funny. He basically said, this challenge is an emotional roller coaster. If anything, it will teach me where to look for stuff more efficiently in Tarkov. I played it around 5 hours today. Would recommend if you like pain. And someone else said to him, like, is this a snowball star run or more of a time trial? And he said, it's a try not to rage quit style of run.
That's funny.
Which I thought was really funny. And oh god, what there was another comment that just actually made me laugh so much. Where was it? Where is it? Oh yeah, here we go. So yeah, he said this is before actually that he like solidified the rule set. He was like, considering an ultra hardcore Tarkov playthrough just to see how much pain I can endure. No flea, no traders, no stash, no container. You can only use what's on your body. If you die, you're back to your knife. And then Dunks quoted messaged on his thing saying like, so you're living out your backpack till you lose it, and Dan's just like, if you can find a backpack. Where are you gonna find a backpack in raid other than the scav? You have to like kill a scav or something.
There's a couple of like really weird spawns, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's some weird spawns, but like rule sets like this kind of like make me think about it in a different way, right? Because they make me think like, how would the game play this way round? Like take it right back to first principles and say, get rid of like this is the thought that I wanted to have actually, that like I haven't fully decided exactly what yet, but I think it's still an interesting thing to just like muse over for a little bit anyway, for a few minutes. Like if you bring back the game just like right back to zero, yeah, then it's like, well, what systems should there be? Like, where should you be able to loot stuff? How do you make that system work properly? I think I don't know. I'm not sure how much value there is, honestly, because I almost feel like we're so far down the rabbit hole. It's almost like sunk cost kind of fallacy sort of thing. You know, we've tested so much stuff that's like, are we really going to wipe the slate clean? Like delete all the traders and make them hard to access, and then change all the loot pools so we can find all the stuff sensibly in raid, and then like get rid of the advantages for the top tier players and replace them with, you know, sensible goals that, you know, daily quests that give you a reward for like 1 of 3 guns. You can get a mutant, an RD, or a, you know, well, actually, maybe 3 completely different guns. You get a quest from Skier. He says, you complete this daily for me, and you can have one of the 45 Vector, the AXMC sniper rifle, or the RD704. You can choose one. You can't have any of them, and you get one, and you complete this quest for me. You know, things like that, because otherwise you can't buy any of them. You know, there's like, do we really want to go back to square one and do that? I just don't know. And this is the thing. It's like, it's partly what's putting me off, like putting more work in and like coming up with a structure, because I'm just, part of me thinks, what's the point?
I know what you mean. And the giga copium huffing for me is that they're making Arena. Arena's going to come out. It's going to free up the current Tarkov structure where it's like halfway house between, you know, arena shooter and halfway house between survival, you know? And then because now I really am looking forward to Arena. I wasn't originally, but at this point, the Tarkov that I'm kind of looking like the I'll say the more survival elements of Tarkov that I want, I don't really know if I'm gonna get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the arena based shooting stuff that, again, we're kind of in a halfway house that like I'm basically only playing it for right now. I mean, I'm helping my friends with quests as well, but we're basically just PvP hunting, me and the other high level players, right? Arena will fill that for me. So it's like, okay, well, if I can't have this, then I guess I'll take Arena, and you know, I'll at least have something. You know, at least I can load into rounds faster. That's the hope, anyways. I don't know how they're gonna do the systems, but and then that means that they can finally make the game more survivally, you know, because now it's like, oh, you wanna run and gun, here's Arena, you know, here's no messing around of flea market and, you know, looting stuff. You just play Arena. Now here's the really survival based hardcore experience, you know. That's the giga copium for me, but I have no idea. You know, you were just listing off some things that, you know, Clean said earlier, and then earlier what 1.0 is supposed to look like from what Nikita has said and everything. It's just like, I don't know what to expect anymore with what they're. I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna wait and see kind of what you said. So
yeah, it's tough. It is. It's really tough. It's like, as people in chat are saying, like, it's not like Tarkov's not really a survival game.
It has survival elements, but it
has survival elements. Yeah,
it's more of a like, thriving game. You build your way up to you're thriving. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird, and I don't know what to do about it, and I don't even know if there's anything that we can do about it. And there's another part of me as well that's like, oh, you know, the game we're playing right now, like, it's not the final game. The final game's going to be completely different. All the quests are just placeholders, right. And I like half think just like, what are we even beta testing for then? Like, what's the point? Because if the actual end game, like, I'm feeling like a real, you know, downbeat sort of, you know, I'm enjoying my time in Tarkov totally, but just like I am starting to think because I just always assume I listen to the people who saying that and just saying, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's fine. Just got to wait and see what it's going to be like. Blah blah blah. But I do then think, what's the value in the test? I mean, yeah, there's the systems and da da da. Maybe that's to come then. Maybe that's to come. Maybe that's the answer. It's like we want to make sure all the guns work. Like we want to have good access to everything so that we can test everything works. It's a technical beta. It's not about balance.
Yes, that's what I think. I think the balance may never come. If it does come, it will come after the game's fully released. But I don't.
This is the issue, right? Like the balance of the survival elements and the progression system and the way that the end game feels and stuff. It might just suck because it's never been tested. Because they're just randomly going to put in, well, not randomly, but they're going to put in the storyline quests, change the things, connect the maps, have all this stuff going on, all these new systems and the ways that players interact with the world and the way that scarcity works and the loot pools and all of this kind of stuff. And the flea market's going to be accessible later on, and like what format that's going to be in, and who knows, all of that's going to change, and it is not going to be perfect. There's no way it's going to be perfect on the first try. There's absolutely no way. Like anybody who thinks that it's going to like even be remotely functional, like it might work technically speaking.
Yeah.
But like the game will be screwed for a while, I think. It'll need post 1.0 balancing for a while to get it into the right place. If the problems are hammered relatively quickly and iterated on in a sensible fashion over like a period of 1 to 2 years. And that's only if it's like dedicatedly worked on every month as a balancing patch and it's done like that for a while. Like that's the only way it'll make sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I do wish that they would test. It's just like their priority is so like it's like streets, new bosses, armor hit zones. Like I don't know. It's just like at the bottom of the list somewhere is like gameplay loops. You know what I mean? It's like the whole gameplay loop. I don't know. It's just weird, man. Because like even if you throw like an AI rework in there, I feel like that's also at the bottom of the list because technically it's functional. It is functional AI. It is an experience.
It is certainly an experience. Yep. I was on one of my Ash 12 runs and I got headshot by sniper scav on my way into Dorms 2, which was
wow, that sucks.
Bueno, that was great. I was going into the bit facing sniper scav, so I was the closest, and he fired one shot. I think he fired 2 shots. He was like bang bang, and I was like, well, I am miles away, and like as I went towards the door, it was just LPS to the dome. And I was like, oh, it's immersive and challenging. Oh god.
That's rough. Yeah, I got hit eyes by a shotgun scav not too long ago. He just one tapped me. It's like, man, that sucks. But
yeah, I don't like. I feel I don't want to sound like too downbeat because
no, I know it's just like I've definitely
I've all the people, right? Like I just kind of take it as it comes,
right,
and just play the game and enjoy it for what it is, and I do enjoy it for what it is. I love the game. I think the game's really. I think it's cool, like warts and all, right? I still think it's really really good, and I enjoy myself. It's really fun, but I just, it's not the best it can be.
Yeah, that's
it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so weird because I just feel like I'm so invested in the game. You know what I mean? And like
it's ironic. You can now never escape from Tarkov, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Because I just like, part of me is like, I could just go get back in the rust, but God, that's just like, that's like going from one bad habit to another bad habit. It's like I went from smoking cigarettes to like drinking vodka or something. Like went from yeah. Anyways, it's just I don't know, dude. It's just it's tough, man. It's tough, but here's to kind of get back on track. The one thing I would say, if they did like, wipe the slate clean, so to speak, I think what the main thing you will want to focus on is the loot pools in the raid. And I said this before, but I'll say it again. Is like, I don't want to loot a weapon box and find a rail, a flashlight, like there's just so many freaking items in the loot pools.
Iron sight and
yeah,
like a
like a
pistol grip
Glock
for an AK.
It's just like I need I need like a little bit more.
In a 1911 magazine. No.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I found a PM pistol. Oh man, there's no magazine. I guess I'll just try the 0.0001% chance again on the Sutter weapon box. You know what I mean? It's just like, dude, I just feel like they would want to change that system somehow, some way. I don't know. I mean, you could. I don't want to offer suggestions because I just don't think it's worth the thing, right? You know, this is the thing.
Mhm.
So
because I already had something in my head. I'm just like, oh, a gun. Maybe there's associated parts come together. Maybe you get an M1911 with like 2 mags and there's like some spare parts or something. Like,
right, like
I don't know,
but
like,
you see what I mean? Like you could do some really intelligent design. You know what I mean? It takes some sitting down and processing, but that's kind of my thing. Is like, well, the game's functioning. You know what I mean? They're not. I just don't know if BSG is really incentivized to do this because they're so close to the finish line in their mindset. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the game's not really a live service game. They do have DLCs coming out, but again, that's not like updating old content. That's making new content. You know what I mean? So it's not like, yeah, it's kind of the downfall of the structure of everything, if you will.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it works.
It works.
It is a game.
It is a game, and it is fun, and it is fun, and it is. You know what? It is fun. It is really fun. It's good. I don't want anybody to mistake my, downbeatness on the way that the stuff will come through, for not thinking that it's like one of the best FPSs ever made.
It just feels like that one child that's like, man, really? Like I gave you so much opportunity, and this is what you're doing with your life, you know? Yeah. You're making you're playing Tarkov all day. Come on, church, what are you doing? I mean, Billy, why did I say church? That's weird. What? That's weird.
Okay, so shall we move on to some ballistical stuffs?
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So the start of this, and I think this is interesting. I do think this is interesting. So it's a good case study on just how Tarkov's ballistics is complicated and tricky. Did you read the thread? Or did you just skim it?
I skimmed it, yeah.
Okay.
There was a lot of information.
There was a lot. You
even had like a PNG image. I was like, what the?
What is going on? Oh my God, he's gone off on one again. It's bad when I was just like, yes, this is too long for a tweet. And then there's just like, an explanation. Basically, Miss Nixia, she put up a post on Twitter, which just like hooked me in like instantaneously. It was just like fishing line. I was just like gone immediately. So she said, can someone explain the math on how 5 hits of 7.62 by 39 BP only does 170 damage, flesh damage that is, with 61 to armor? And she said, I am dumb and don't understand math, but like, that's not true because Tarkov's ballistics is like incredibly convoluted and it's difficult to understand some of this stuff. And actually, I would say not possible to completely break it down unless you've done significant testing. And even I don't actually have all the numbers in here. Just for full disclosure, but it's still interesting nonetheless. So I asked her, do you have a screenshot of the post raid and an estimated range for your target? Because I was like, these are the 2 things that I think might actually make a difference, right? Because like, if it was, because she didn't give any context, so I was like, it could have been at like 400 meters, at which point, like, yeah, the BP is going to do nowhere near as much, and the pen value is going to be super low. So I don't know. And so the plot thickened though, because she was like, I was 3 feet in front of him. He hit me twice in the chest while I was wearing an AACBC and killed me. And then, which actually it turned out to be really important, she says, it looks like he was wearing a Mando mask with a gazelle. So I was like, okay, cool. And I looked at the post-raid report. For some reason my screen's like really huge. I'm actually going to post it in here. But I'll post it in the chat. Like, I'll probably forget to post it on the video or something. So if somebody hears it or like writes on YouTube or something, then I'll go back and find it. But it's in the series of tweets from in Nix's tweet versus my tweet. If you really want to go and see it, but basically all it says really on the post raid report something that I'd suspected might have been the case, which is why I wanted to ask about it. So it says damage dealt to body 170, damage absorbed by armor 61, ammo used 9, hit count 5, overall accuracy 0.44. Right. So the very first thing, as any sensible Tarkov ballistics Sherlock Holmes investigator extraordinaire should do, is take the ammo used, 9, and multiply it by the overall accuracy, which is 0.44, which gets you to 3.96 because it's rounded, which is 4, as opposed to the hit count of 5. Right. So it says hit 5, but she actually only hit 4 shots because the hit count takes into account fragmentation as well. So 4 shots actually hit, 1 of those bullets fragged. Okay, so we know already that there was only 4 hits of BP, which is sort of interesting. But BP does 58 damage, right? So that's like that kind of sucks. Does it count passing through limb to limb? I'm not 100%. I don't know exactly how that functions. Yeah. I don't know how that functions, but I think it's pretty rare that happens. But anyway, with that, I'm pretty sure, and maybe there's some other explanation for this. I don't know. But the way that I interpreted the situation, so one thing that's actually really important for me was damage absorbed by armor is 61. Now this led me off on like a little rabbit hole, and I could be slightly wrong about this, but I'm not 100% sure whether I am. So I just kind of went with what it says. I assumed that the damage absorbed by armor 61 means like real damage absorbed by an actual armor in game, because I imagine that's how VSU would display it. I don't think they display any of the like funny stats in the background or anything like, before you've applied like material or anything like this. I think it would be the Gazelle went from 65 to 61. Sorry, to 65 to 4, dealing 61 damage. That's basically what I've assumed here. Because otherwise it doesn't really make much sense, right? Because like you've got this like material constant, like the 0.8, the destructibility constant for all the different armors and stuff. Because like the way you have to calculate is you take like the raw damage and you times it by 0.8 to get to the actual armor damage and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, so the interesting part about this is when you look at the testing that I did for the Tasmanian Tiger SK rig the other day,
right?
Armor damage is really very consistent. And because I've got like one of the spreadsheets here, and so if you hit a Gazelle with BP, it basically does well on a penetration. It deals somewhere. So I've got 3 hits registered in my file. It was 21.3, 21.7, and 21.5, and that's all real armor damage. That's like the actual damage the Gazelle actually took in the raid. So I was like, okay, well, look, it's about 21.5, and that was on a penetration. Times that by 3, that gets you to 64.5. It's actually kind of in the right ballpark. It's pretty close. It's actually pretty close, and there is a difference between pens and non-pen hits.
Yeah,
funnily enough as well, which like makes it like more annoying, more complicated. But I was like, yeah.
Sorry, if it doesn't pin, it does more or less armor damage, or does it depend on?
It usually does. It does.
It depends
more.
on the caliber.
It does. Yeah. It either does the same or more.
Okay.
Is that there's the rules that seem to be the case? So I'll go through some of those in a minute, actually. Because
when you're talking about the context of 7.62 BP, because if you were shooting off like rip ammo in the armor, it's gonna do like no armor damage. Well, 1 point of armor damage.
Yeah, but that's more of a function of like the pen being low as opposed to like whether it pens or doesn't pen. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that all that aside, I was like, okay, so 61 armor damage. If that's talking about real armor damage, which I think it probably is, that means that 3 rounds hit the Gazelle. Basically, like that's pretty much what it means. And so 3 rounds hit the Gazelle at some point in time.
Right.
Like it doesn't necessarily mean that they did pen or didn't pen. It just means 3 rounds connected at some stage, right? So then that then leaves 1 more shot, which, as we know, fragmented. So it had to have been on a limb. And it was probably on because of the way that, because I had a little look on the way the math works out, I think it probably ended up being on a limb. It could have been on an arm or something, but you have like a 0.7 for the arm, like once it's flat, which makes it slightly more complicated. But anyway, just kind of for the start, I was like, let's just assume. So there's 170 damage to begin with flesh damage. That was the total that was on the end screen. And one round, 58, got a crit on a leg, let's say. So that takes it to 87 damage. Let's just assume that. So 170 minus like 87, that gives you 83 damage left. I was like, damn, that is really low for like 3 more rounds of BP. But we know that all of those rounds of BP hit the armor.
How do we know that again?
Because the damage absorbed by armor was 61. So there must have been 3 shots to deplete the armor to that amount. You see, this is kind of like where I was like trying to box it in, going like, okay, where did these shots hit? Like they must have hit here. One must have been a limb because we had a fragment, because we now know that fragmentation doesn't happen on PMC thorax or stomach. So it has to be on a leg or an arm. I presumed it was just probably an arm because I don't think it's enough damage otherwise. But it could have been an arm. But it was on one of those anyway. So I was like, okay, well the only way that this makes sense then, like if you either take like, you know, a thorax hit or a stomach hit on any of these shots. And I feel that, well, I actually don't think it necessarily matters, but it doesn't really make sense that you ended up with, there was a reason, why did I think there couldn't be 2 penetrations? Yes, because the damage is too much. That's why. That's exactly why. Because there's not that much damage left, as we were saying. So there's only 83 damage left. So if you had 2 penetrations, BP would do way more than that. So I've got a spreadsheet. Okay, I'm good. I'm back on it now. I've got a spreadsheet here. So if you were shooting at a gazelle with BP, when we did our testing, it penned every single time, but we healed up every single time. So we've got like the damage that you should receive through a gazelle after each shot on a pen. Like that's the information that I actually have. I don't have the blunt damage, unfortunately, which is kind of what like threw me off a little bit. But anyway, the first damage from BP was 43, then 47, then 54. So all of these are like, they're all too much. They're all too much damage. So I was like, well, 2 of them must have been absorbed by the armor. It must have been, otherwise just like way too much damage. Now I don't know what the blunt damage actually is, but on the gazelle it is really, really small. Like ACP, 45 ACP AP does 7, BT does 5, M80 does 9, M855 A1 does 6. Right, so this is like really low. Like the armor damage the blunt damage is really low on a non-pen. Like they're really, really tiny. So this was the only part where I kind of had to like hand wavy a little bit. I was like, I'm not really sure if this makes sense. And it is technically possible to not go through on the second shot, because the first shot is like 55% pen, and the second shot was a 91% penetration chance or something. But it's not, it's not 100. That's like 1 in 10 on that second shot, and it's about 1 in 2 on the first shot. So overall, it's actually just a bit less than 1 in 20. It's like 1 in 25 chance that happens, but it's perfectly plausible. And if you just say, for like argument's sake, just because it makes the maths work, so I do wish I had the numbers. If you said, okay, well, shot 1 didn't pen and shot 2 didn't pen, and they did like say 12 damage and then like 17, I was like, these seem plausible because BP does a lot of damage and it's got higher pen as well. So like probably does a bit more than 55A1 and M80 just because of the combination of the 2. I'm not actually sure how it's calculated, but if it was 12 and 17, then the final round that hit, the third round, would basically have auto penetrated. There's like no way that it didn't. And what's interesting about that is if you got 1 shot on the thorax, 1 shot on the stomach, and then the final one penetrated on the thorax again, it still wouldn't be enough damage, because even with like only a tiny bit of durability left, the third shot does 54 rather than 58, because the gazelle's on like 22 or something. So there's still a bit of mitigation there. So it only deals like 54 damage, which combined with either like 12 or 17 damage from the blunt of what I've estimated is probably going to be the blunt, it's still less than 85, so they still won't die. But then when you take all of that together, you say like, okay, well, the first hit does 12, then the armor gets damaged a bit. Then the next shot does 17, the armor gets damaged a bit. Then it does 50, what did I say? 54. Because and I actually have that number, I have 54. That gets you to the 83. 1 shot then hits the leg, fragments, that deals 87. That gets you to 170 damage. And then 3 shots hit the gazelle, so that gets you to your 63 or whatever, or 64 armor damage.
Right.
So I was like, I did not expect it to take that long to work out like what was going on. You know what I mean?
For
like,
why.
yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't know for certain, but this is like a plausible situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that might happen 1 in 25 times when you shoot at somebody wearing class 5, for example.
Yeah. That is a very...
So that's how you shoot somebody where it says 5 hits with BP, but it only does 170 and only 61 to armor. That's how. But yeah, it's crazy. It's just like the damage mitigation thing is so much that you think it should be way more, but it ends up being really, really, really small. But it's just like it's so complicated.
Right.
And yeah, and sometimes you can lose when, you know, when that was kind of a takeaway from Nixie. It's just like, you know, you lose sometimes just on like random RNG, which kind of sucks. I mean, there's other ways that you could probably like bump this around. You could probably say there was like 2 non-pens on like thorax and stomach, and then the stomach got shot, and then there's a bit of damage spillover, which is why the damage is a bit higher and the blunt damage is probably a bit lower. But like, I don't think it matters. Like, materially speaking, like 3 shots happened to center of mass somewhere, not enough to kill, and there was 1 fragment either on like an arm or a leg, probably a leg, because the 0.7 is actually quite significant in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like where you end up. So there's probably a few ways you could jig it around. Like, I wish I had the blunt damage numbers, because then we could nail it down like precisely. Like, what is the blunt damage on shot 1 and what's the blunt damage on shot 2 for it to make sense. But yeah, it was crazy. I thought it was going to be really quick and really easy, and just be like, oh, I'm going to look and I'm going to see there's like 2 fragments or something random that's happened, because BP fragments, like, I can't remember what it is, 10% or something. It's
17 or something.
Oh, so is 12, it even that 12. high? 12. Yeah. So okay, so it's 12. So it's like, you know, a 2% chance of, you know, 1.5% chance of this happening, and you get 2 fragments, and it looks like it's going to be way more, but it's not. But then, like, the more I dug into it, I was just like, God, this is really complicated. And like, you can only really start to even like imagine one plausible scenario if you have like the testing data. You know how much the armor damage is per round. Like, you need to know the blunt damage. You need to know the damage mitigation. Dude, it was like, it was crazy. It was actually crazy. Like, it sent me down like another path of like thinking again about how all of this stuff works. Like, I'm working through a load of things right now about like damage mitigation, about, because I've got some damage mitigation numbers from the Tiger rig one, because that's like kind of interesting. But just like how the armor damage works, I've got like 4 different spreadsheets from the community that I've been like pouring through, and I actually feel like I've got to the point where I now understand and have a model. Like, obviously I don't have any of the like most of this stuff gets like data mined out, right? People have like data mined formulas. I don't know where they get these things from. Like, some people have them, but some people say, oh, but it's changed. Like, there doesn't really seem to be any consensus on like what's right, what's not right. I seem to have like, I know I need to test it way more. I seem to have like a model that potentially tells me what the armor damage is for penetrating shots and non-penetrating shots. That's it. But I still need to think about blunt damage. I still need to think about armor mitigation on like penetrating shots, what the actual PMC damage is. There's like those 3 elements to it. So I feel like maybe element 1, I'm like kind of getting close-ish to having like something that functions. Like, it may not be the same as what the calculation is that BSG use, but it's like we always used to say, like in science, is that all models are wrong, but some models are useful. Right? If it comes out to the same result, it doesn't really matter what equations I've used, right? As long as it models the line in the same way, broadly speaking. So I need to test it. But anyway, for the qualitative findings that I found so far, just from like looking at a few charts and aggregating some data together across a few different data sets, it's just like I've got like a few random bullet points here. So M856A1 with 37 penetration. This guy deals the same damage to a slick, regardless of whether it pens or not, which is kind of interesting.
It's kind of weird, though.
It's kind of weird. Yeah.
Like,
armor damage is like super consistent, and it stays the same basically no matter what the durability of the armor is. So if it's like 45 AP, it basically just go against the Gazelle or something, or the DTSK rig, it's like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So at the end, even against like a really, well, the armor damage is super consistent. So the reason why you can get these results is that even like right at the end of the armor's life, you can start to pen through with like crappy rounds on like good armor. And then you can see, okay, well, on the pen shots, it did what it was doing before. On the non-pen shots, it's the same actually. So which is kind of weird. Because like the way that it should work is that penetrating hits usually do less damage than non-penetrating hits in Tarkov. They do either the same or less. It's weird. So like if you don't pen, I'd like the
All right, hold on.
The head canon I have for it.
Let me stop because I'm
okay.
hella confused now. So the
Okay.
5.6A1 deals the same damage to Slick, you said?
Same
whether
armor
it pins
damage,
or not?
regardless of whether it pins or not, yeah.
Okay, armor damage. Okay.
Armor damage, yeah. This is all about armor damage. This isn't about player. I've not even got onto actual player damage yet.
Yeah.
I'm literally just looking at armor damage.
And that's weird because why exactly?
Because usually when you look at other rounds, the reason why this one's weird is because they're so mismatched. You don't normally shoot at a Slick with 5.6A1. They're like quite different.
Okay.
37 pen versus like class 6 is like 2 tiers different.
Right.
Usually when you shoot at an equivalent or lower armor, like 855 versus like class 4 or whatever, usually the penetrating hits, I guess the idea is, I had an argument about this in my comments the other day with somebody who was like talking about realism and stuff, but like the way that I think about it in the context of the game, just to help you remember it, is a penetrating shot from a really high pen round on a low tier armor, like whips straight through and hardly does anything. It just leaves like a neat punch bullet hole, because basically like the armor doesn't really absorb much of the energy of the round. Whereas if it's absorbed by the armor took the punch, took the energy and broke more in the process. It's kind of like, whether that's realistic or not, like you guys can argue about ceramic armor in the comments. I'm not getting involved, but like in the context of Tarkov, that's how I'm remembering it, because that sort of makes intuitive sense. But interestingly, then like something like 856A1, if you're punching above your weight, in terms of like you're trying to beat something that's like much better than your round, it doesn't seem to make any difference. So even if it pens, you still do the full armor damage against a higher class armor that you would if you didn't pen, which is kind of cool. It makes crappy rounds like better. I guess.
Which like furthermore, there's like a sweet spot of armor damage associated for a certain round at a certain pin level, I guess. Like, in other words, if you go on one end of the spectrum, like a Slick, you shoot it with super performance slugs, it's only going to take 1 armor damage. You shoot it with like M61, it's going to take maybe like 10 armor damage. But if you hit it with like BP or something, you get like a insanely lucky roll, or maybe not an insanely lucky roll. Like, it takes a lot of armor damage or more armor damage.
It's actually not even as nuanced as that. Like as far as armor damage is concerned, basically the more pen the better. the more pen the better.
Got it.
Yeah, because the thing is, the situation that I have observed, this is kind of the next stage to it. So if you're punching up, you don't really care. You're like, okay, well, I might do low armor damage because 5.6A1 doesn't do that much to a Slick because the Slick's so good, but I don't lose anything if I do pen. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Whereas like the next stage to that is like, okay, well, if I'm using a really high powered round, I will actually do less armor damage to a lower tier armor. So say if you're using like M61 against a Packer, you'll do less armor damage to the Packer than if you're using BT, for example. But the most important point about this, right, and it's important not to lose the forest for the trees. You don't care because you're never not going to pen, right? Like, who cares what the armor, like what the durability is on the Packer or the Gazelle for that matter with M61? Oh, I'm doing slightly less armor damage. Well, I don't care because I'm a 97% chance to pen anyway. So like it hardly matters. Right? It hardly matters. But it is kind of interesting that actually occurs.
Which almost makes like killing, like using the best ammo, the highest pin ammo, better, because then their armor, when you kill them, is less damaged than it would be. Yeah, which is kind of weird.
Which is kind of weird. So then when you like go and stack it, so it's most obvious with class 4 armor because that's where like the high pen rounds normally kind of go up. So BT deals 10% less damage when it pens to class 4 than it would if it didn't. So on a penetration, you deal like 10% less. M855A1 deals like 20% less damage when it pens than it would if it didn't, but it still is the same against class 5 and 6 because like 55A1 is what, 44 pen? So it's still lower than what's is seemingly this important 50-50 threshold, right? Like, I talk about all the time the 37, 47, 57 pen thresholds, where you go from 45% chance to pen to 55% chance. That seems to be a really important critical threshold, whereby the armor damage starts to move away from like it's the same no matter what to it's no longer the same anymore. Like once your round starts to outpace that armor at what appears to me to be like 10 times the armor class minus 3 seems to be like a really critical thing. So it's like for class 4 armor it's 37, for class 5 armor it's 47, right? And it's also coincidentally turns out to be the 50-50 penetration threshold as well. Like above that it's above 50%, below that it's below 50%. I'm like, these things are not coincidences, surely. Like there's something going on here.
Sure.
The BP actually does 25% less than you'd expect against class 4 armor than when it doesn't pen. And then it starts to only do like it does 3 to 4% less against the Gazelle, which I guess is maybe relevant. That's like maybe the only situation in which it becomes like slightly relevant, because BP is not like an auto pen against a Gazelle. It's because it's like 57 pen. Sorry, 47 pen. So it's like right on the edge.
Right on the edge. Yep.
Yeah, it's like right on the edge. So it's somewhere around there that you start to see this like slack. Maybe it was -4. I think it was maybe it was -4. It's like the 36 threshold or something. Anyway, 36, 46, whatever. So like 47 pen versus like class 5, you start to see like a slight slippage in the difference. So if you penetrate with the first shot, you're actually then less likely to penetrate with the shot after than if you didn't pen the first time.
Which is weird.
You're then more likely to pen on the next one, which is like, yeah, kind of weird. I don't know whether this actually really makes any difference. Distance doesn't seem to matter at all. Someone just mentioned in chat, and it's an important point because I don't have any distance data, but I don't know how you pronounce his name, but it's like it's like Yabab TS or something from my Discord. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but anyway, he did like a bunch of testing with someone else, and he has like M855A1 testing in his sheet from 100 and 150 meters. And distance does matter, but solely because the pen is lower.
Well, what about how?
Solely because the pen drop off.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So it doesn't make any difference. Like the calculation is the same, but the pen on 55A1, for example, is no longer 44. It is now like 39.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So the armor damage is lower on that basis. Yeah.
So it indirectly affects it, basically.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah, the calculation is the same, but like, yeah, it affects the armor damage because the round doesn't have as much pen. And everything's based upon pen. It's all based upon pen, this stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I'm getting somewhere. So I think, and this is the thing. This is where I actually got to. My wife thought I was actually crazy. I was like in the kitchen. She was like, "Oh, I need you to come and like do something." And I was like, I didn't have to do anything actively. I was just kind of like with the little one and stuff. She was like eating, and I like had this like scrap piece of paper, and I was like writing this formula out. And I was like, I think I'm like right. I was like, oh, I was like so distracted. I'm like right there, and I had like this whole thing written out. I was like, I think I've like got where I need to, because it's like, oh, I did. She was like, what are you even doing? I was just like writing like formulas. I was like, oh my god, I'm in such like a zone right now. I'm like in this such weird zone because people keep asking me about it as well. And like, I am interested, but it's like it's hard to do. It takes time and it takes a while. Like it took me like sifting through data sets, like mixing stuff up and like actually drawing some charts with like different ammo and things. Like the one place that actually ended up looking kind of interesting was I had to do like some calculations because I talked about this a little bit last time. Like there's a few different steps to this thing. It seems the first part is what we talked about originally, which is that the pen of the ammo and the armor damage percentage is like point number 1. You know, so you take the penetration and you multiply it by the armor damage percentage, and that gives you some kind of raw number. But that number's not the be all and end all. Like there's the material as well.
Right.
So the way that in all the testing, I basically like ignored the material type. Not ignored it, but I've like worked backwards the material type. So I put all the armors like the Gazelles and the Slicks and I put them all into like effective durability instead, rather than the actual durability, just because then you don't need to think about that anymore, right? Because like every time you have any kind of armor damage, you need to multiply it by some number in the destructibility table, which is just a pain. Because then when you have real armor damage, like a number for real armor damage, like yeah, it's useful in game, but it means that you can't compare between armors properly. Like it's just annoying. And so I've kind of like pulled the armor data back one step, so it's not like the final result. That's all in effective durability terms because that makes it kind of easier. So anyway, so you've got the effective durability like impact, which is easy to do because we have the destructibility table. You have the penetration chance. You have the pen value of the round, and the armor damage percentage, which gives you your base number. But that's pretty much like it's basically not correct because exactly what you said, right? You have like super performance slugs, and they do like no damage, like at all. They do like basically no damage. So there's some modifier, which is that how different the armor is versus the round that you're shooting, and it takes that into account to work out how much armor damage is going to be. So if the round is really low powered compared to the armor, it does like even less, and if it's really overpowered, it does even more, just as like a flat amount. So there's that bit, and then once you do that, like that actually works. That's actually quite straightforward, and that actually works well for shots that don't pen. But then you have this weird behavior that we just mentioned about where like if you're punching up in the armor classes, it's the same. But if you're punching down, penetrating shots do less damage. So you have to then do a modifier for that. And I was like, it was that final bit that took me ages, and I was like working that out, and that's kind of like fudged.
Yeah.
So I'm going to test it on some other data sets and just like see if it works. Because now that I have like a formula for it. So I could say, did it pen? Yes or no? You know, what's the pen? Which armor is it? And like, how much damage should it do? And like gives you a number. And it works for all the stuff that I've got, but it's not like the be all and end all. And I haven't tested it at like the two extreme ends of the spectrum. Like it probably, my equation probably goes crazy at the ends or something. Cause it's like, oh, it works just in this little bit, but like it goes like wildly out of bounds at like, you know, if you shoot, I don't even know, you shoot like the 338 like AP and you shoot somebody wearing like condors.
Yeah, no, I get
level you. 1. I don't know. So there's like some more stuff to do on that, and then I haven't even started on like blunt damage or like mitigation. I've got like some bits on, but it would just be nice to have like a proper consistent model of things.
For
sure. Because
you know what you could to help kind of squeeze in those outliers, you could take a tank helmet as a test subject and then go to reserve, get on the MG, and fire.
Oh my god.
Well, see, I don't know which one it uses. You need the one that has one of them has 80 pin, the other one has 88 pin. I don't know.
Which one's this one here? There's
this is the non-explosive one, so that answers that. Well, I don't know. Explosive green tracer.
It's not a tracer. The other one, the 12-7 by 108 B32s with 88 pen.
And shoot him in the tank helmet, and then you could see how much armor damage that took. That might help get you some interesting data.
Problem is with that is that I guess you could go and look. Actually, yeah, you can go and pick up the helmet. Can't you?
You get one run, one test, but you know it's
whoever's in raid with you has to go and pick the helmet up. With the armor damage of 88% and a penetration power of 88.
Like that's the most upper extreme, and then you could probably test the lower extreme pretty easily with a slick or whatever the best.
I have a horrible feeling that it would actually like. Because what's the tank helmet? Is it class 1?
Class 1.
I have a horrible feeling that it'll do more armor damage than like the helmet has armor.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
I think it might go out of bounds, you know, in some sense, because that's so high, 88% with 88 pen, dude. You like,
but like,
that's so much armor damage. Oh my god.
Yeah, but shouldn't it not do that much because the armor is not absorbing it? But you could get that outlier for that extreme case, right? And then for the other extreme, you could do like a slug that has 0 pin on a slick or whatever, kind of help squeeze
something
in.
that's like not 1, but yeah, you go like the lowest you can that isn't 1 with like a readable number or something.
Yeah.
Just
a thought.
Interesting. Yeah. Good thought. I'll think about it. Yeah.
Come on, who doesn't want to shoot an MG at a test target wearing a tank helmet? That sounds like fun, dude.
We shot an MG at a tank helmet. This is what happened. You'll never believe what happened.
This changes everything.
Tarkov will never be the same again. Oh my goodness. So yeah, that's what I spent my afternoon doing today. I was supposed to be doing something more productive, like actually making like a video that doesn't take me like 100 hours to do the research. But I've got like an MS Paint drawing with what my expectations are of like the test before, or of the results before I drew the chart. I've got like armor damage. It literally is just like MS Paint. It says like AD% and then 10 at the bottom, and then it goes class 6 the same, class 5 tilts up at the end, and class 4 gets to about whatever, and then like tilts up. And then you know what? It did actually look like I expected it to. So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah,
I was like, that's cool.
So like the two like follow-up questions I have quickly is, one, Gazelle over Karund. What's your pick?
Okay, let's put it this way. Like the Gazelle is way better than the Karund, in my opinion.
Way better. How? Like, okay, way better. All right, I'll accept.
Like, I think you will die less.
Okay, it will do more for you.
How much less? I'm not exactly sure, like off the top of my head. So I'd need to actually go do the proper testing. That's actually probably quite a good video, actually, because it's one of the big trade-offs. But the Karund is a lot more economic.
Yeah, a lot more.
So that's the thing. It's like if this was Call of Duty without the extra steps, and you got the choice, and there was a completely even choice, you'd pick the Gazelle every single time.
Yeah,
because it has like less move speed debuffs, like less ergo debuffs. It's the weight is lower.
Isn't it?
It's got higher effective durability.
Yeah,
it's got really low blunt pass through.
This is the confusing part. Is like, does it, based off what you said, would it break down worse? I guess. I don't know. This stuff, it gets really confusing. I need to like see it on the model.
Because all that you care about, there is the difference in the armor type, which I guess is what you're referring to, right? The armor steel versus ceramic. But that's dealt with in making it effective durability.
Right. Okay. Because the like shown durability there. Yeah.
Because the shown durability is very different between the two. Because it is. Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah. So Karund is only 45 in game. And it's steel, which actually steel is not amazing. Actually, not very good. But a lot of people think steel is really good. There was a time when tons of people were going around saying the Defender 2 is like an amazing armor because it's like 70 durability and it's steel. And I'm just like, the steel's great for repair. Right. But it sucks for destructibility. Like, it's not that great. It's like only just a bit better than ceramic, amazingly.
Yeah.
For some reason. I don't know why. I actually don't really know why that's the case. Maybe there's a IRL reason why that's the case. I'm not sure. But like ceramic, you take whatever the armor damage calculation, all of the waffle I was talking about before, and you times it by like 0.8. So it only receives 80% of the damage that you would think it does. Steel only receives 70% of the damage. So it's like only a little bit better. Like combined materials is like half. Combined materials takes half damage. Aramid takes 25%. So Aramid is crazy. And so with the effective durability stuff, you basically say, okay, well, 45 on a Karund is like 64 once you sort of modify it by the material. The Gazelle is like 65 to start with, and because of the material type, that takes it to 81. So against the same round, you'll zero the Karund first because its effective durability is like between all the class 5s, you're basically dealing the same armor damage with the same round. And effective durability compares apples for apples. So 81 versus 64, you'll zero the Karund's like, I guess what, 15% quicker or something? I don't know. Then the question is like the breakpoints, right? Like,
So
where do the breakpoints lie for that? Like, and which round you're talking about? Like, if you had two armors, one with effective durability of 1 and the other with effective durability of 2, they would both suck because they would both be zeroed after one shot. Even though like one wouldn't be 200% better than the other, because the first shot they got the same penetration chance, right? And then the second shot they'd both be 0. So there is an element of that because they're both quite low. That they can be zeroed quite quickly. But like as we saw with the Gazelle that I was just like talking about before, and the penetration with like BP on that.
Yeah.
And the example that we had with Nyx, it was you can still absorb the second shot from BP like 10% of the time with the armor damage, which isn't, I mean, it's not amazing, but BP's a pretty like it's a punchy. There's a reason why people use it. So when we did one of our tests, and I don't have the statistics off the top of my head for exactly what it is, but yeah, they took 2 shots of M80, like no problem. It went from 60, so with M80, it went from 65 to 47.4, absorbed that. And then from 47.4, it went to 30, and it absorbed the second shot too. So, it can take some pain. Whereas, I guess the current equivalent would be like that much low. It would be like however much lower after the first shots. The second shot's more likely to go through. I'd have to like look it up on Battle Buddy and like put the armor damage in and all that stuff. But like, so that's the thing. I think that like performance-wise in raid, I think you always want to take the Gazelle. If you don't care about money, you don't care about insurance returns, and you don't care about repair. To me, actually, one interesting thing now, we don't really care about repairs anymore because the armor repair kit. So that's actually one like big plus point for the current that's kind of been taken. Although it was actually quite expensive to repair the current because they made that a lot more. Remember, it used to be really cheap, and then they made it really expensive,
cheap, and they made it
and then they added armor repair kits, and now it's all really cheap again.
Yeah.
But it's cheap for both. But like you can actually repair the current near full, whereas the Gazelle just won't. It just won't go near full.
I've been selling Qurans that are like 52 out of 65.
Yeah, so you repair them with the kit, you sell them back to Ragman for 50k, and then you buy a new one for 120 or whatever with the barter.
Great economically at all, but but like this is
it's not great. Like what else are you going to do, right? Like class 5 is so restricted now. Like this is one of the issues that I find.
I can get a defender, but like how much better is the defender than the Gazelle even? Like, we're talking like I get an extra
100 durability effective rather than 81.
Right. I get like an extra 2% chance for the armor to actually do something. You know what I mean? I don't I'm pulling it out of my butt.
And it's 11.5 kilos.
Right, it's heavier.
You have -7% ergo and -12% turn rate.
It's not exactly the most appealing thing. And then there's really not a lot of good. Like once you get up into the class 5, class 6s, the options for like quote unquote like good armors, like good all around, I guess, is like thin and thin. Like we actually did kill the rogue bosses last night. I forgot to mention this.
Oh, nice.
We went nighttime customs looking for cultists, and instead we like I threw a grenade and it was like EFT out. I was like, oh my god, guys, the rogue bosses! Like, quick, go inside crack house quick! Like I was terrified. But yeah, we each killed one somehow. But anyways,
any of you died?
By some miracle, no. Like one guy just killed the what's his name, Bird Eye.
Yeah.
He was kind of like just like I don't know. He's doing his thing, and he just like killed. He said I killed someone, and I was like, did that guy make any noise? Because I was I didn't hear it, and we were like inside crack house. He's like, no, he's really quiet. I was like, okay, that's definitely Bird Eye. I saw on his stream. He had like the backpack. I was like, that's good. I'm glad that guy's dead because he's terrified.
Killing him first is honestly huge, actually.
Yeah. That's probably how we pulled it off because the other two I peeked from crack windows eventually. Like we threw enough grenades and they were yelling enough. We were like, okay, we're pretty sure they're right in front of Alamo. Killed Big Pipe, and then I was trying to kill Knight, but he was like looking right at me. So as soon as I shot, like ducked my head down, and then we pushed out and the other guy killed him. So it worked out really well actually. But
nice.
Yeah, nighttime, their night vision is just shit, I guess. We didn't get beamed, which is nice. But anywho, Yeah, their armors are pretty good because they're class 5. They're lightweight. They got good stats, but like they're a 3% spawn chance on any given map on any given day. Like it's just not a good. I don't know. I don't know how that works at all. Their spawns, but yeah, the options are just really slim pickings for like good armors, and I don't know. I'm like, I'm starting to I'm sorry, I'm tangenting here, but rambling. I'm starting to like kind of go back to slicks because I don't. Not a lot of people are running. Like the only really thing I'm scared of is like buckshot or like rip, but I don't really see a lot of people running that. And BP, like it has good damage, but I think it's like 6 or 7 shots to the stomach, which is a lot. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, it's only 58, which for like a flesh damage round, like you would go,
yeah. Like
you know.
I'd be more scared if they had like M80 or M61, even M62.
And the rate of fire isn't very, very fast, right? If they're using an RD or something, it takes you a while. It's 650 RPM or 600 RPM to kill somebody. Like, it's not really a leg meta kind of deal.
So even though the slick got nerfed and like, not in terms of its like armor damage, but I think like its weight and stats and stuff, and I don't. Yeah, like I haven't seen any KS23s. It's honestly all been BP. I think I'm gonna start running slicks more often. Anyways, the yeah, that's it's kind of weird picking class 5 armors. Yeah, it just feels like Gazelle or Corund, and you know.
I've been running Gazelle a lot.
This is the one final thing I'll say about like the penetration and armor damage is like I would just love to test a world. I can't remember who I was watching. Maybe it was like Jesse or Willers or someone, but they were talking about like, you know, I think it was Jesse, like just going into like offline factory and like or labs and have people bring like good armor, good helmets, but like crappy ammo. That way, like it's like higher skill, I guess.
TTK, yeah.
Yeah, because the TTK would be higher, right? And like it'd be more interesting because this is like the frustrating part is like, would you rather, if you had to pick one, I'll just shortcut it. I just feel like having more accessibility on high tier ammo is just not great because then you like effectively make high tier armor less valuable, and really anything below that is like already less value. Like to me, I feel like they should like kind of teeter it to where good armor is a little bit more accessible than good ammo, but that way it's just like feels like more often than not your armor does something. Because right now it's kind of like it does something, but it's just like 1 in 25 chances it does something, you know. In the case of Nixia, not in her favor, you know. But
yeah, I know what you mean. It's tricky, right? Because like the way that the balancing goes at the moment, like armor's expensive. It's like hard to store. It's heavy, like really gated by the traders. Like it's heavy.
If you want to take it out, it's heavy. Yeah.
And the thing about bullets is they're like, I don't know. I just feel like the offensive, as you were saying, the offensive is sort of overpowered versus the defense right now. And the problem is like, yeah, it sucks when you come up against somebody and you do like 6 shots and they just don't die at all.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, like in an ideal world, the game will be balanced in such a way that using good ammo is kind of, you can't use it all the time. Use it for sort of special things, or I don't know, but like there's a very floaty, hand wavy thing to say.
Yeah,
much harder in practice to actually put systems in place to do so. You know, like if the Flea still existed and the traders were not there, and M80 was like 3K, you'd be like, well, I need to go and do some player killing quests. So like maybe it's worth spending, you know, out the ass to go and buy something that's like actually good. Like in that sense, it sort of makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. That's the thing right now. It's like armor just feels a bit defunct, especially towards you get to the end game, because like the people just pick the rounds. I always feel like you have more choice with rounds too, because you can pick any round from 1 pen through to 69 pen. right? Whereas like armor, it's like 4, 5, 6, and the thresholds are so static that it's like I will choose BP because it destroys class 5. I will choose SNB because it destroys class 6. You know, it's like, I mean, I do the same. Like, no one's to blame, right? But it's just like everybody picks you don't really have much choice. If you want to run like endgame armor, you're going to be running class 5 or 6. That's it. And so people pick the rounds that like specifically defeat that because you have way more choice in like rounds. You can't choose to run armor class 5.5, for example, and then like suddenly thwart all those people using BP. That's not a thing. It doesn't exist.
Yeah,
the pen chance is either 55 or like 10. You know, for like class 5 or class 6. So you have to make this huge jump up to class 6 in the hope that they're running BP. And if they're not, then it was a waste. And then also, you know, your rounds are sort of expensive-ish, but like not really, right? They're like, what, 1,300, like 2,000 at most for some of the like most best rounds in the game that like and stuff that's maybe on the Flea. And yeah, you use a lot more of them or whatever. But like again, armor gets damaged. It has to be repaired. Like it then doesn't go back to max durability. Like there's lots of things about armor that make it like awkward and annoying. Whereas bullets, like you just buy more and just throw them at people until they die. And as I said, you can like pick precisely the bullets you want to use for the thing that you want it to do for. And if you understand the systems, you can kind of like utilize the game mechanics in such a way to maximize your outcome based on, you know, what kit you're running and how much you want to lose and like how much you want to spend. Whereas I feel like armor's just like hemmed in so much. I think I do agree with you in principle, but yeah, as I said, it's how do you balance that
practice,
so that
right?
It is not like super frustrating.
Yeah.
And so that you don't end up also with nobody ever using either as well, which is like you don't want, right? You want people to be able to use that stuff too. So like it's such a hard balance. This is the thing, it's so tough. It's honestly so tough. And this is why I don't really have an answer.
I mean, the classic, you know, Labs Enjoyer kit I see is the Rat Rig and the Shattered Mask, right? Because you get and it's like you might as well run that on every or whatever your preference is, but I just feel like the minimum is class 4, and even class 4 is kind of pushing it because you're effectively building for scavs. Like I would say, you know what, you could get it with a P.A.K.A., but like if a scav's got 72 by 39 PS, dude, that junk hurts. And some scavs, this is the crazy thing. I'm gonna go on another tangent and I'll be quick. They spawn with M855A1. What is that? He's a scav. Why is he spawning with M855A1, dude? Yeah, 336 AP. What is that, dude? These guys, he had 3 mags full of it. He's not a scav, dude. He's a fucking PMC to get that shit out of here. That actually like tilts me a little bit, but anyways, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, well, the random scav on like the Russian mill base with like 4 mags of like US end game AP ammo or whatever. I'm like, yeah, they're on a mill base. Fair enough. Maybe that sort of explains it. I don't know, but I mean, I think the reason why people use the class 4s is because if you use anything less than that, you don't really get any armor mitigation. I think that's just sort of not come to that conclusion by theory, but people come to that conclusion just kind of by like feel and playing for thousands of hours, going like, oh, it feels better when I use these armors, sorry. So, you know, if I get shot with BP in the stomach, it doesn't do 58, it does like 52 or something. I was just looking back at my charts, like against class 4, it does a little bit less damage. That kind of applies to like other rounds as well. I guess like if you're getting shot with an MP7 back in the day or whatever it is that people were using.
What you're saying. Yeah.
And maybe there's some mitigation there too. That's the reason why I'm kind of surprised people use it because the ergo debuff on the rat rig is actually really high. So if you're using like modded guns with ergo, like the ergo debuff is actually pretty huge.
It's like what, 60k, 80k? It's fairly cheap.
It's like, I think it's even less than that. I think it might be like 55.
Yeah, it's very cheap.
It's bonkers cheap.
So
probably the reason. Yeah.
Anyways,
cool. So the science continues. I don't really know where I'm going with it. I'm just sort of on a search for truth right now.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, it's like really weird. Exciting. It's like I just kind of feel that people have like done the work already. Well, some people have sort of done the work. Some people haven't done the work. Some people have done part of the work. Some people have said like, I've got this, but this was an old one. I don't know if it still works. I feel like the only person who actually has like a full set for this is Veritas.
And
like how it all functions because of like Battle Buddy and stuff. Yeah. I always say like, it'd be interesting to ask him, but like I never do.
The only
I just should.
Thing is, he doesn't have a simulation for He does have it for armor damage, but he doesn't have player damage. But I guess he does have armor. Sorry. Oh, excuse me. He does have armor damage, and you can do like pin no pin, and you can see how much damage it takes. I think it rounds too. So yeah, I guess he's got it all there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Exactly. And he's doing more science stuff now. I think before I was like, oh, he's like not into the EFT, and he's just like having a bad time with it, like doesn't want to talk about anything with Tarkov. So I was like kind of hesitant to sort of ask him. It's like, but like he's been doing a bunch of science videos.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And they're interesting. I mean, that's where the frag bug thing came up.
Yeah.
In the first place. It was actually funny after when I was like looking through the some of the findings from like this thing that I was looking at. I was like, oh, it's funny actually that like a penetration does less damage, because his latest one was about overpen, about how people misuse the word overpen. And I was like, it's actually funny that the armor damage from some of the really high pen rounds is actually less than you would think that they would do on like low tier armor. It's like almost sort of what people kind of are talking about, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, like now that he's like back involved in doing like science and testing and stuff, and seems to be a bit more enthused about it, like I might reach out to him finally and be like, "Yo, I've been looking at loads of this stuff. Like, is there, I don't know. Like, I'm really tempted. I'm really tempted. That's why I like kind of didn't before, because he was like in a real funk with it, and I was like, this is not the right time to approach that man.
Do you want to know how much damage the MG does to a tank helmet? Or do you want to find out on your own?
But is it even right? I mean, I'm assuming it is.
We'll have to test it. We need to verify it. GigaBeef verified, chat mark. No, man, I'd be interested to know now, because yeah, it's not. I mean, I guess it could make. I mean, I don't know. You probably would know more than I would, but that's interesting.
Why? What does it say?
How much do you think it with the penet? Okay, so it has a 98.9% chance to penetrate. Let's assume it penetrates.
Yeah. And it's class 1, right?
It's class 1 with 100 durability. How much durability do you think is left?
Run it through
the model.
The thing is, the model is sat in my kitchen. No, genuinely, like that story from earlier is like 100% true. The model is sat in my kitchen on the table. Like I haven't actually codified it yet into like Google Sheets, which is a shame, because I wish that I had. Where did I even put it? I feel like I put something somewhere. I mean, I don't even know where it's gone. Oh, maybe it's actually in here. Oh, yes, because I did it in here. I did it in like an unstructured way. Let's see. Does this work? Can I just do it like this?
Chat's placing bets.
I can do it like this. Can I even do this? Difference. I'm actually not even sure if I can do this, but let's just see. So it's 88 pen, isn't it? So the pen difference is.
No, sorry, it's I want to make sure. I think it's 80 pen, because the other ones. Yeah, I'm using.
Is this one 80?
Oh wait, which one should I use? I get confused. Is the explosive tracer green? Is that the one that explodes?
We were looking before, so there was B32 and there was.
We'll just use B32.
B32 is 88. That is the one that's like the highest.
Yeah, let's just do that.
I feel like this is never going to be correct.
Well, you never know.
Oh yeah, because that's that, and then the armor factor is this. The armor difference is this. What does this say? Oh yeah, so that doesn't even make any sense at the moment, based on that. But I mean, a very like my adjustment doesn't make any sense. But very broadly speaking, it should be something. It's probably going to be kind of wrong, but it should be like, let's see. So it should be this times this times this divided by that. It just seems like way too much. It just seems like it seems like 600 and something. It's just like way too much. Like, it doesn't even make sense, I don't think. Because the raw amount should be something along the lines of like 77.4, but then there's this weird adjustment. This is why, like, at the extreme ends, it just looks crazy. Because, like, the fact that the round is like so much, it shouldn't. Oh wait, no, but we said it gets lower, didn't we? We said it gets lower. Yeah. But my adjustment calculation doesn't really make sense. So it should be higher because it's like higher, but it should be low. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know.
Come on, you gotta guess.
I've got to just guess something. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're gonna guess. Your best
educated guess. You got some previous knowledge.
A bit. We're definitely not there. When the science isn't that advanced. I'm just gonna have to guess like 50 or something.
50. Okay, so 50 damage, 50 remaining durability, whatever.
I guess it's like, yeah, it's like 50. Oh, is it 100? The thing. Is it aramid?
Durability. It is aramid. It is aramid. And it's. Well, let me double check.
Because that does make a big difference with aramid, sure actually. It is.
Why can't I find? Oh, here it is. It is aramid. Class 1 aramid.
Okay, fine. I'm gonna say like 25 actual damage then. I think
25 actual damage.
Yeah.
All right, so we got CZTL. He's settled on, I believe, 26 damage.
Oh, 26 is very close to me.
Ron Roy's settled on 28 remaining durability, so that's what, 72 damage. Oh wait, he's second guessing. Lock in your answers quick, those of you playing at home. And the answer is B-32 penetrating on the tank helmet. Class 1 aramid does a total of 18 durability damage.
Okay, you know what? That's not that far off as a guess.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually not too bad. You know what? I really wish that I had the iOS version. I really do. It'd be super neat. Because I can't do that on the Android one. All I can look up is pen chance.
Suck, yeah. I mean, you could. I'm sure there's a emulator you could run on your PC and do all that stuff. But it's,
maybe, yeah. I've never done it for iOS, so I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, actually. Anyways. That's a big project. But that's, yeah, close, Giga.
18.
Yeah.
18.
Which is
that's interesting.
I mean, like, previously, if you asked me before we had this talk today or any of the previous talks about armor penetration, I would have said, yeah, it will 0 the tank helmet. You know, because it's just like, oh, big round, big bullet, high pin versus small helmet, weak armor. Yeah. You know, it will just rip it, but or shred it rather. But I guess in this case, it just goes in and out.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. Yeah, because so you said the tank helmet. So we said the tank helmet was. This is intriguing now because I've never really looked at the tank helmet. Yes, it's 100 durability with aramid. I mean, that's like actually kind of insane. Because that makes its effective durability 400.
Yeah, but
which is like ridiculous. Obviously, it's class 1, right? So it sucks.
Yeah,
and
that's the thing.
It doesn't really matter. But from a pure theoretical perspective,
like,
so the interesting thing about this, right? Okay, let's just put this in context. If you know, in case people weren't following on precisely with the full scientific investigation that I've been doing and haven't understood every single word, there will be a test, by the way. I mean, just for context, right? So the simple answer to get just some like first raw number is you take the penetration of 88 and you times it by 0.88, and that gets you to an answer of 77.44. That's like a raw damage number. You know, before you've done any fancy stuff, before you've adjusted it by the difference between the fact that it's really low versus high, before you've done pen, no pen, anything like that, you get to a number of 77. And the funny thing is, if you take 77, if you ignore all of that other shenanigans, and you just say, okay, well, what would it deal to aramid? You look at the destructibility number, you times it by 0.25, and that gives you 19. So it's actually very close. Very close to the real number. I'd be interested in Raid what it actually does.
Yeah. I'm looking at...
It's like right at the extremes, you know?
I'm looking at War Mage, which has 3 pin versus the tank helmet. The penetration chance is 25.2%. And I'm hitting the shoot no penetration thing. I'm tapping it on my phone. And it moves 1 decibel every it moves by 1 point. Like it loses 1 durability every like 4 or 5 taps. The effective durability is insane on this thing, dude. Like you could, like, in theory, shoot, I don't know, 8 rounds of War Mage at Scav with wearing a tank helmet. Oh wait, blunt damage. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
wonder how much blunt damage you would take. Anyways,
no, I'm actually not sure. Yeah, I don't know whether blunt damage works off like actual damage or not. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't even looked at it. I haven't even looked at it yet. Screw that. I haven't even looked at that yet. God damn it. I don't know. I don't know. Dude, it's wild.
Yeah,
it's wild. But some of this stuff could be kind of cool. I'd like to like have it for myself, you know, so you can like figure it out and actually like do the testing and know that, because like so many things have changed and the blunt damage has changed and there's different data tables and all of this stuff. I don't know. We'll see. But it's it's kind of fascinating. I don't know. I'm sort of like intrigued, even though it's not really. There are some kind of like interesting things that you could do with it, just to like test various like breakpoints and thresholds, because those are what matter.
That's some important stuff.
That's really the important thing. It's like after 3 shots, do you then get zeroed or whatever? Yeah, it's that kind of stuff. Just to have that ability to like run through those things without having to guess or like go into raid and test the stuff more. Like as long as you can prove it for a big enough sample, then it's good.
I would wager that there probably is a good class 5 armor out there, specifically with breakpoints, that has just the right amount of durability and the right material type and the good stats to back it up. But I don't know where that lies. I mean, the kill armor is probably a good contender, but
no one can get it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what else.
This is the issue.
What else is there? I mean, I guess there's armor rigs. But anyways, that would probably be like the biggest advantage of it.
I think so. So we'll see.
Yeah, and just wait till they add armor hit zones to the mix. Gee Willers, it's going to be so much more fun doing these calculations. I can't wait.
You won't need to do the calculations anymore. You can just shoot magnum buckshot at center of mass. It'll be fine.
Within the equation, roll for RNG, critical hit. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Good stuff. Well,
nuts.
That's that.
It is indeed that. Until next time.
Tune in for ScavTalk Armor Durability Breakdown Season 2 next week.
Class is in session.
Oh, that was a good one. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. I think we'll wrap it up there. And we'll see you all next week.
Catch you later.